Call the meeting of the Senate Committee on Education and Health to order. I'd like to start this morning by asking to do a roll call. Madam Clerk?
You have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We still have a lot of work to do before crossover, so we're going to move rather quickly through these bills this morning. What you will note is when I call on the subcommittee chairs is these bills have already been aired in subcommittee, so they will not be aired here this morning. And if there's a reason to have people to come up to the mic to speak, the time will be limited on both sides. And so to get us started this morning, I'd like to ask Senator Gonzala Hashmi to present the subcommittee report on public education.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning. We'll start with SB 249, patroned by Senator Favola. And this particular bill focuses on school divisions of innovation. And I'm sorry, there is a substitute, and you should have the substitute packet in front of you.
Not a bad thing.
There's a motion and a second to adopt the substitute. All in favor of that, please say aye, and nays are saying right. Madam Clerk. Senator Hashmi.
SB 249 focuses on allowing a local school board, when it's applying for a school division, to be designated as a school division of innovation. And it passed out of committee with a vote of 3-1 with one abstention. And I so move. I don't see the patron here to speak to the bill, but I move that we recommend reporting with the substitute.
Senator Newman?
Madam Chair, to the chair, I guess, is this the bill that we read that basically allows performance assessments in social studies at a local level and allows the locality to grade them and not have a statewide metric for social studies?
It does. It replaces the SOL with performance-based assessment in the School of Innovation.
Madam Chair,
Senator Newman?
does it also allow for local grading and metricing of the results?
I believe that it does. Maybe you could speak to it.
With the Department of Education. This bill is specific to school divisions of innovation and the regulations that the General Assembly passed a couple of years ago. This would allow a local school board who wants to be designated as a school division of innovation to use a performance assessment in Virginia studies and civics and economics, and this would be a locally developed and locally scored performance assessment.
Thank you. Senator Newman?
I'll just let you know, I mean, this is kind of the last one. We're losing really the metricability of social studies, and I know this has been a push and a desire, and it is being done in the schools of innovation, but we're going to lose our ability to understand what's happening in our schools and civics. I think that's the desire. I kind of get that, but I just would hope that we would not do that.
Madam Chair.
Senator Peterson?
I actually want to echo that. I was the chair of the Civics Education Commission 10 years ago, and we spent a lot of time trying to get the Commonwealth to focus on 4th grade, 8th grade, and 12th grade, or actually 11th grade and 12th grade civics education. And we've repealed almost all the SOL testing at this point, and this is like literally the last bit. And I understand this is just for certain school divisions in certain schools, but we all know what's coming next year or the year after. So, thanks.
In queue, I have Senator Donovan and then Senator Cosgrove, and then we're going to suspend until I get Senator Favola here to respond.
Thank you,
Senator
Madam,
Donovan.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And to Senator Newman and Senator Peterson's remarks, in the conversation that occurred in subcommittee, it became clear that, as you'll see in a subsequent bill, as we take away even more SOLs and we transition towards performance-based testing, we don't have any performance-based testing. And this bill seeks to develop some tools that can be used, but there's nothing currently, as we make this fairly radical adjustment, to develop or standardize any kind of performance-based testing for the state of Virginia. And I think that there needs to be serious consideration that this bill be amended so that the Board of Education centralizes and makes sure that these performance-based tests that are developed in these localities have some sort of standard across the whole state, so we don't lose the idea that there is a high-quality benchmark that we have in Virginia that is clearly demonstrated by the quality and outcomes of the tests we have. And so Senator Peterson's absolutely correct. We took this away 3 years ago, I believe, and we have no test for the state of Virginia. We were promised performance-based testing. We don't have it.
Senator Cosgrove?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My daughter-in-law teaches civics. She taught in Chesapeake before my son inadvisedly took a job in Atlanta, so she's down there teaching civics now. But I will tell you that here recently there was a survey done, and our school-age children are woefully uninformed in civics and the local government, et cetera. I just worry about this. I worry about how our student population is going to be going through the education system and not have the information that they need to understand their government, both local, state, and federal. And I just think this is probably the wrong approach. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Clearly, Senator Donovan, did you want to speak again because I have Senator Chafin next?
I apologize, no.
Senator Chafin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I echo the comments of my seatmate, Senator Cosgrove. So often, throughout my district, which is Montgomery County back to Kentucky, I hear children and even young adults speaking about Congress, speaking about Senate, speaking about federal issues, which are in the newspapers, but state issues are not statewide. The coverage of civic issues for our state government, that coverage reaches the Richmond metropolitan area. It reaches the Northern Virginia area, but it does not penetrate the rural areas. Not with any degree of efficacy. So I would say that we should try, Madam Chair, to be doing a better job of teaching civics to our children so that they understand what our government, the oldest form of democracy in this part of the world, so that they don't lose sight of what it is. Thank you.
I thank all the speakers from the committee. Ma'am, I would like to ask you to suspend until Senator Favola joins us in the committee. Back to you, Senator Highsmith.
Thank you. Shall we just wait until Senator Favola
Yes, ma'am.
comes? We'll come back to
Move
the
on to
bill.
your next bill.
I do just want to briefly respond to some of the comments here. This particular bill does not change the content of the curriculum, that the issues of civic engagement and Virginia studies would not be affected. It simply impacts the assessment process, and Senator Favola's
We can
just arrived.
continue now. Senator Favola, if you would please take the mic. There's some questions that the committee has of you.
Okay.
Senator Chafin, you want to go back to you since you're still in queue? You're not now.
So you're on Senate Bill 249?
That is correct.
Okay, and you've got the
Senator
substitute?
Donovan.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is not really intended directly towards your bill, Senator Favola. This is about the kind of 30,000-foot view of where we are on making sure that we have standard measurements across Virginia that demonstrate our children are mastering information, number one, and number two, that our schools have a similar threshold for excellence across Virginia, which is what the SOLs were intended for. We're transitioning to a different type of testing, but I think the concern is that that testing doesn't exist yet, nor does any framework by which the Department of Education can evaluate or standardize that performance-based testing across the state of Virginia. So while your bill, as we talked about in subcommittee, is perhaps 3 years behind where we should be right now, as far as making sure we have performance-based tests that are statewide, I'm wondering if there should not be some sort of attempt here to make sure that we have a statewide framework to take the centers of excellence that you're talking about and make sure that we distribute performance-based measurements across the state of Virginia in a very standardized way.
Well, my understanding is that the Department of Education has issued guidelines on these performance-based, how shall I put it, best practices for locally adopted performance-based practice, performance-based
Chairman.
models. And Emily is here from the Department of Ed, and she's, willing to talk to you. So we do have a framework out there. What my bill does is it enables local governments to now apply to get that waiver based on a rigorous application that will have needs, performance-based assessments based on whatever cohorts they have in their school system. And those performance-based assessments have to be rigorous. They would be both quantitative and qualitative. The school system has to demonstrate an ability not only to implement them, but to have a third party objectively review them. So this in no way is intended to reduce any accountability or to reduce a measurement of academic performance. It's just a different, it's
Madam
allowing a different way
Senator
of
Favola.
assessing academic performance.
We have a lot of bills to get through. I'm going to recognize the members of the committee in queue. Senator Newman, you're next.
Madam Chair, I think I understand, and I understand that if we had the performance measurements today, we could look at them, we may be able to tell that, especially if we had them and we knew that they were state graded. They're not. Madam Chair, I think we're just almost there. We don't have those available for us today. We know that the bill allows it to be locally graded, not graded statewide, and I would move that the bill be given a little more time and go by for the year, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, could you extend a?
Emily spoke already.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
I've given far more time than I
Sure,
needed
sure,
to
sure.
this bill
All
since
right.
it's already been aired.
just wanted to make
We
sure
we have a motion, and the motion is that and second, that the bill will go by for the year. Madam Clerk, open the roll, all vote electronically. Yeas, 13 nays, 2.
We will
Senator
continue to
Favola, the
work
bill will
on
go
it,
by
and
for
we'll
the
be
year.
back. We'll be back.
Thank you. Senator Hashmi.
Thank you. The next bill is SB 323, and I move the substitute.
You've heard the motion that is to move the substitute. Did I get a second? Okay, it's moved and second that the substitute be adopted. All in favor, please let it known by sign of aye or nay.
Aye.
Thank you. Senator Hashmi.
SB 323 addresses the issue of the possibility of replacing high school graduation requirements to allow students who are pursuing an advanced studies diploma to substitute 2 standard units of credit with computer science credits in the place of two standard units of credit in foreign language. The substitute defines that this replacement applies only to those students who are currently holding an IEP, and it would allow flexibility to students who struggle with issues of learning foreign language to replace those credits with computer science. It does not affect the foreign language credit requirement for all other students. The committee reported with a vote of 5-0, and I so move.
The motion is to recommend that the bill be reported 5-0. Please designate your preference on the electronic board. Madam Clerk?
Yeas 13, nays 2.
Yeas 13, nays 2, the bill will be reported.
Madam Chair,
Senator Newman?
if it's possible to allow 390, which suffers from kind of the same problems, in my opinion, as 249 to go by temporarily, if someone wants to get Mr. Pike here, if you're allowable to that.
Good morning.
Oh, there he is. Good. Okay.
Ask, and here I am.
Sorry, Madam Chair.
Senator Newman, you have questions?
No, if the subcommittee just wants to give their report, I will have some questions then. Yes, ma'am.
Senator Hashmi?
SB 390, I move the substitute.
The substitute has been moved and second. All in favor, please let it be known by the sign of aye or nay.
Aye.
Madam Chair.
Senator Hashmi?
SB 390 is with regard to reducing the total number and type of the required SOL assessments, and I will ask the patron to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Madam
Senator
Chair. What I'll also suggest is that a delayed enactment be also added. And the reason being is there's a couple things. In fact, I think this year is the first year that all the localities for the previous SOLs that have been reduced have submitted full locally administered performance assessments in regard to the subject matter covered. And I think to Senator Donovan's point, they have utilized the regulations and guidelines put out by the Board of Education in order to comply with that give very precise requirements. All the subject matters over the last couple of years on SOLs are still in a part of the core curriculum. Those aren't going away. I think the question before the body is, how are we investing in our student-teacher ratio? How are we instructing and informing our spending decisions? As many of you know, we have not reinvested since recession and caught up to levels of spending over the last couple of years. And so I think there's some fundamental things by reducing the SOLs in this area that it actually allows our localities to innovate in terms of how we combine different subject areas, whether it be writing and history and other subjects, into the locally administered test framework.
Thank you, Senator McPike. I have questions of two of the members of the committee. Senator Donovan, now three.
Thank you, Madam.
Senator Donovan, Peterson, and Newman, in that order.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And I want to make it very clear. I know there's science to talk about performance-based measurements for kids. I know we have a lot of anxiety about testing. Here's my problem. Regulations from the Department of Education do not beget standardization that we are ensuring our kids that the tests that we've replaced, the performance-based tests that we're replacing SOLs with, are actually demonstrating what we're hoping they will demonstrate. And until the Board of Education finds a way to do more than just suggest with guidelines of how those should be done, until they're tracking how those performance metrics are working, I have a lot of anxiety that we are putting the cart before the horse because we don't have anything to stand in to demonstrate that basic function of our schools in a standard way across Virginia, if that makes sense.
Madam
Thank
Chair.
you, Senator Donovan, Senator McPike, and then we're going to Senator Peterson, Newman, Cosgrove, in that order.
Thank
Senator
you.
McPike.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the key is the requirements and what the Board of Education has put out to those localities. And so they have to submit based on that precise guidelines of how they're going to achieve the curriculum goals. And that's really the alignment of the 5 Cs program. And I've served on the SOL Innovation Committee for the last 4 years. It's been truly informative to see how the administrators of the local schools and superintendents are actually innovating to align those goals. And the Board of Education's 5 Cs program has been, I think, a tremendous workload over the last 5 years that they've done a fantastic job. One of the core tenets is citizenship. The whole framework has been built around this core. And so by allowing the local government to actually integrate both writing components and history components, we're actually strengthening our local ability. What they do is they submit those tests, Madam Chair, to the state for review. So they actually have what and how the local government is achieving those goals. And so I think it actually aligns with what Senator Donovan is saying through this. Now, it's not that everyone takes the same thing. It actually allows the innovation to occur at the local by still achieving the same core tenets that we're asking them to do. So we're actually asking our teachers to innovate and do the job, which is to teach our kids.
Follow up, Madam Chair.
And I want to caution the members of this committee. We've been now 20 minutes on 2 bills. We have a lot of bills. And I am going to request that each one of you, please limit your request. This bill has already been aired in subcommittee, and we're gonna move on. So after I hear from the next 4 members of this committee, we're gonna take a motion on this bill. Senator Peterson, Newman, Cosgrove, Donovan, in that order.
All right, a bit very quickly, as I read this bill, this basically does away with the SOLs as standardized tests. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, I'd respond, Senator, to the federal minimum of 17. Right now, we're at 23, I believe.
All right, and
Senator Peterson.
and basically, as I understand it, we do away with the requirement of the civics education.
For an SOL, it is still very much a part of
I
our
know
core
it's-
curriculum.
That, I know that. Yep, thanks.
Senator Newman?
Madam Chair, I know Senator Pike has been pushing legislation like this for a while. I think this bill actually is just slightly worse than the Favola bill because it not only does it for social studies, it does it for other things. And Madam Chair, it's just not ready for prime time. If we could see what the tests look like, see what they're measured, and see that they are measured and that they're graded at a statewide level, and we have confidence in them, it'd be great. That's not what's happening. Madam Chair, I know that the committee wants to move on. I would recommend that we allow this bill also one more year to gestate and come back to us, let us see what the tests are, and therefore I would move that the bill go by for the year.
It's a
Well-
good bill.
Now everybody disappeared from queue, so nobody else has any questions to ask. Now that's a good thing. The question, you've heard the motion and the second that the bill will go by for the year. Was that the motion?
Yes.
That requires electronic vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeas
Thank-
11, 4 is nay, nay 4.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Senator Hashmi?
The next bill, I'm sorry, Senator Edwards is making me laugh here. So, SB 515, this particular bill focuses on the Northern Neck Technical Center, and it allows the school board of any school division from which students attend the Northern Neck Technical Center to set the school calendar so that the first day that the students are required to attend school is earlier than Labor Day, including earlier than 14 days before Labor Day. This bill reported with a vote of 5-0, and I recommend reporting. I make the motion.
It has been moved and properly seconded that Senate Bill 515 be recommended for reporting. This is going to require electronic vote. All in favor of that vote, please designate.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Yeas 15, nays 0. The bill will be reported. Senator Hashmi.
SB 551 was recommended strike per the patron request, and I so move.
Well, I guess that's going to require electronic vote. Madam Clerk, open the roll. Madam Clerk?
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Yeas 15, nays 0. The bill is reported.
No.
Senator Hashmi.
SB 594 focuses on public school security equipment, and it classifies security-related devices located outside the school building on school property and security-related devices located on school buses as eligible for the security equipment under the Public School Security Equipment Grant Act of 2013. It was recommended reporting with a vote of 5-0, and I so move.
You've heard the motion and the second.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Yeas 15, nays 0. The bill will be reported. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Senator Hashmi.
SB 595 similarly focuses on public school security equipment, the Grant Act of 2013, and it classifies vaping detectors as eligible security equipment under the Grant Act. It reported out of committee with a vote of 5-0, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly second that the bill be reported. All in favor? Nays have the same right. Madam Clerk, close the roll.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Yeas 15, nays 0. The bill is reported. Senator Hashmi.
SB 680 focuses on teachers in certain schools for students with disabilities, and it requires that the Board of Education extend for at least one additional year, but for no more than 2 additional years, the 3-year provisional license of a teacher employed in a school for students with disabilities that is licensed by the board upon receiving from the school administrator of the school a recommendation for the extension and satisfactory performance evaluations for the teacher. It reported out of committee with a vote of 5-0, and I so move.
It has been moved and properly second that Senate Bill 680 be recommended for reporting. All in favor? Nays have the same right. Madam Clerk, close the roll.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Yeas 15, nays 0. The bill will be reported. Senator Hashmi.
SB 691 focuses on the School Guardian Fund and Program and establishes the School Guardian Fund and requires the Virginia Center for School and Campus Safety to establish and administer the School Guardian Program for the purpose of providing grants from the fund on a competitive basis to school boards for the appointment or the hiring of school guardians, which the bill defines as any individual, including any school resource officer, school security officer, or school board employee, to carry a firearm on school property during normal school hours for school security purposes. This bill reported failed with a vote of 2-3, and I so move.
Well, I need a motion to pass by for the year or PBI.
Move to pass it by for the day, or pass it by definitely.
The motion is, did I get a second? Okay, the motion is to pass by indefinitely, and Madam Chair, thank you so much for that assistance. Senator
Yeas
Hashmi?
9, nays 6.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Senator Hashmi?
SB 728 focuses on the standards of quality, and it makes several changes to the standards of quality, including the establishment of a unit in the DOE to oversee work-based learning statewide in Standard 1, and requiring the BOE to establish and oversee the local implementation of teacher leader and teacher mentor programs, and the establishment of a unit in the Department of Education to oversee principal mentorship statewide in Standard 5. This bill reported out of committee with a vote of 4 yes and 1 abstention, and I so move.
Madam Chair, this will have to be re-referred to Finance.
Yes, I know. I have my notes here. Did I get a second? Second. It's been moved and properly second that the bill be reported and referred to Finance. All in favor, please vote.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Yeas 15, nays 0. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Senate Bill 728 will be reported and referred to Finance. Senator Hashmi.
SB 729 eliminates the requirement that school principals report certain enumerated acts that may constitute a misdemeanor offense to law enforcement, reported out of committee with a vote of 4 and 1 abstention, and I so move.
Do I hear a second? It's been moved and properly second that Senate Bill 729 be recommended for reporting. All in favor, please designate on electronic voting.
Yeas 10, nays 2, 1 abstention.
Yeas 10, nays 2, 1 abstention. The bill will be reported. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Senator Hashmi.
SB 832 focuses on requiring the governing boards or administrators of private elementary and secondary schools accredited on behalf of the Board of Education by the Virginia Council for Private Education to adopt and implement policies prohibiting any individual who is a governing board member, administrator, employee, contractor, or agent of this school to assist a governing board member, administrator, employee, contractor, or agent in obtaining a new job if such an individual knows or has probable cause to believe that the individual seeking new employment has engaged in sexual misconduct regarding a minor or a student in violation of law. This reported out of committee with a vote of 5-0, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly second that the bill be recommended for reporting. All in favor, please designate on the electronic voting board.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Yeas 15, nays 0. The bill is recommended for reporting. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Senator Hashimi.
SB 847 was recommended incorporating into SB 390, and we have passed that by for the year.
It has been moved and second that the bill be passed by indefinitely. All in favor of that motion, please designate on the electronic voting board.
Yeas 14, nays 1.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The bill will be passed by indefinitely. Senator Hashmi?
SB 910, reported with a substitute, and I so move. I move the substitute, I'm sorry.
The substitute has been removed. The motion is to adopt the substitute and then second. And so all in favor, please let it be known by saying aye, verbal.
Aye.
Thank you. Senator Hashmi.
SB 910 focuses on providing further state funding to increase the ratio of teachers for our English language learners. It reported out of committee with a vote of, with the substitute with a vote of 5-0, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly second that Senate Bill 910 be recommended for reporting with a substitute, and this bill will be re-referred to finance. All in favor, please designate on the electronic voting board. Madam Clerk.
Yeas 12, nays 2, abstentions 1.
Yeas 12, noes 2, abstentions 1. The bill is recommended for reporting with the substitute and re-referred to finance. Senator Hashmi.
SB 933, I move the substitute.
The motion is for the substitute to be approved. And the second, all in favor of that, vote, or just say aye or nay.
Aye.
Thank you. Senator Hashmi.
SB 933 is focused on the statewide definition of students with limited or interrupted formal education. It requires that the DOE develop and adopt a common statewide definition for the term students with limited or interrupted formal education, and to require that school boards report on the number of students who fall under such a definition as part of the required data collection and reporting on average daily membership for the purposes of documenting any changes in such numbers over time and allowing for comparison across school divisions. It reported with substitute with a vote of 5-0, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly second that Senate Bill 933 be recommended for reporting with a substitute. All in favor of that vote, motion, please say aye or nay. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Yeas 13, nays 2.
Yeas 13, nays 2. The bill is recommended for reporting with the substitute. Senator Hashmi.
SB 978 focuses on the military science endorsement and teaching professional licenses. It directs the State Board of Education to amend its regulations to require that persons seeking a technical professional license with an endorsement to teach military science have either the appropriate credentials issued by the U.S. military or a recommendation from a Virginia employing educational agency. It reported out of committee with a vote of 5-0, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that the bill be recommended for reporting. All in favor, please designate on the electronic voting board.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Yeas 15, nays 0. The bill is recommended for reporting. Senator Hashmi.
SB 1020 has a substitute, and I move the substitute.
The motion is that the substitute be agreed to and second. All in favor, just let it be known verbally by voting aye or nay.
Aye.
Thank you so much. Senator Hashmi.
SB 1020 focuses on an alternative accountability process, allows the school board to adopt an alternative accountability process to provide a principal and parties involved in an incident involving assault or assault and battery without bodily injury, to enter into a mutually agreed-upon process between the involved parties as an alternative to reporting such an incident to law enforcement. It reported out of committee with the substitute with a vote of 5-0, and I so move.
It has been moved and second that the bill be reported and referred to finance. No, not to finance, that the bill be reported with a substitute. All in favor, please let it be known by voting yea or nay. And I'm the only one who has not voted. I did. Thank you, Madam
Yeas
Clerk.
14, nays 0, abstentions 1.
Yeas 14, nays 0, abstention 1. The bill will be reported with a substitute. Senator Hashmi.
SB 1040 allows or authorizes the city of Winchester to compensate its school board members with an annual salary not to exceed $4,500. It reported out of committee with a vote of 5-0, and I so move.
It has been moved and second that the bill be recommended for reporting, and it will be referred to finance. So all in favor of that motion, please designate on electronic voting.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Yeas 15, nays 0. The bill will be reported and referred to finance. Senator Hashmi.
SB 1080 focuses on establishing a urban teacher fund and program to be administered by the superintendent of public instruction for the purpose of providing grants to individuals employed in urban school divisions with teacher shortages who remain employed by that urban school division for a period of at least 5 years. It was recommended out of committee with a vote of 4-1, and I so move.
It has been moved and second that the board be recommended for reporting, and this has been requested by Senate Finance. So all in favor of the motion, please designate on the electronic voting board. Madam Clerk.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Yeas 15, nays 0. The bill is recommended for reporting and will be referred to finance. Senator Hashmi.
SB 1087 establishes the school construction fund as a special non-reverting fund in the state treasury and requires the DOE to establish the school construction program for the purpose of providing grants from the fund, subject to certain conditions to school boards that leverage federal, state, and local programs and resources to design and construct new school buildings and facilities or to modernize and maintain existing school buildings. It was recommended out of committee with a vote of 5-0, and I so move.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that the bill be reported, and it also has to be referred to finance. We've got letters from the chair to send these bills upstairs. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Yeas 14, nays 0, abstentions 1.
Yeas 14, nays 0, extension 1. The bill will be reported and referred to finance. Senator Hashmi.
SB 1091 authorized volunteer school security officers by local school boards and private or religious schools. The motion failed to report with a vote of 2 yes, 3 no, and I so move.
I need a motion for PBI or carryover for the year.
Motion to PBI.
Madam Chairman.
It has been moved and properly seconded that the bill be passed by indefinitely. All in favor.
Madam Chairman.
Senator Cosgrove, sorry, didn't see you in queue.
Could Senator Hashmi tell us a little more about this bill? We just have some bold language and doesn't really say much about it.
Let me pull up the bill here. For some reason, the summary is missing. It was Senator Stanley here, by any chance? If I remember correctly, it was to add volunteer school security officers if a school board or a private or religious school authorized. There were objections in the committee hearing from VEA and parents' organizations with the involvement of volunteer security officers when the resource officers are already in place. There was a desire not to add additional individuals with the function of school security in the school buildings.
Senator Cosgrove.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, I guess I'd ask, do all schools have security resource officers? Yeah, obvious answer to that.
Senator Hashmi, the recommendation?
I think also part of that was the training involved for the volunteer school officers and the liability issues that would come from having volunteer officers in the building.
Madam Chairman.
We have a motion and a second that the bill be passed by indefinitely. All in favor of that motion, please designate electronically.
Yeas 9, nays 6.
Yeas 9, nays 6. The bill is passed by indefinitely. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Senator Hashmi?
I believe that completes the report of the subcommittee.
Well, Senator Hashmi, I definitely want to thank you for all your hard work with the subcommittee, and this really does help us to move the committee along rather swiftly. Second committee, subcommittee report will be on higher education, and that report will be coming from Senator Mamie Elock.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have Senate Bill 146, and it was by request of the patron, it was recommended that the bill be stricken from the docket, and I so move.
That's an easy one. Thank you, Senator Locke.
Well, the next one is equally as easy. By request of the patron, it was
Yeas
recommended.
14, nays 1.
Yeas 14, nays 1. The bill will be stricken from the docket.
Senate Bill 147, the patron also requested that bill be stricken from the docket, and I so move.
Man, he's bringing us good bills.
Madam Clerk?
Yeas 13, nays 2.
Yeas 13, nays 2. The bill will be stricken.
Senate Bill 220, the patron recommends that it be stricken from the docket, and I so move.
We're moving this docket right along. The motion is that the bill be stricken from the docket. All in favor, please designate electronically. Madam Clerk?
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Yeas 15, nays 0. The bill will be stricken. Senator Locke.
Senate Bill 271 requests that permits such each public institution of higher education to enter into a public-private partnership with any private entity whereby such entity is permitted to use at no cost property owned or controlled by public institutions of higher education the generation of wind or solar power in exchange for offering educational and immersion programs for high school students. And the students at these public institutions of higher education will be provided hands-on education and training in the construction, operations, and maintenance of its wind and solar power generators. The bill also requires any energy produced by these solar or wind power generators to be used to provide power for the partner public institution of higher education, introduced to applicable power grids and sold at market rates, with profits split as agreed upon by the private entity and the partner public institution of higher ed. The bill also requires any such profits gained by the partner public institution to be used to further research, expand clean energy education programs, or lower student tuition rates. It was recommended to be reported on a vote of 3-0, and I so move.
I need a second.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that Senate Bill 271 be recommended for reporting. Madam Clerk?
Yeas 14, nays 0.
Yeas 14, nays 0. The bill is recommended for reporting. Senator Locke.
Senate Bill 448 from Senator Edwards allows a president of a public institution of higher education to delegate any officer or administrator of the institution his obligation to determine and make a written finding as a matter of public record that if a contract is to be in the best interest of the institution, when an officer or employee whose personal interest in a contract with the institution is by reason of an ownership in the contracting firm in excess of 3% of the contracting firm's equity or such ownership interest and income from the contracting firm is in excess of $5,000 per year, that person can act instead of the president. And it was recommended for reporting on a vote of 5-0. So, and I so move.
It has been moved and properly seconded that Senate Bill 448 be recommended for reporting.
So you're okay with all these?
Madam Clerk.
Okay.
Yeas 14, nays 0.
Yeas 14, nays 0. The bill is recommended for reporting. Senator Locke?
Senate Bill 464 from Senator Reeves addresses the issue of compensation representation for intercollegiate athletics and for student athletes. And it prohibits any private institution of higher education or other organization with authority over intercollegiate athletes from providing a prospective student athlete with compensation that results from the use of the student's name, image, or likeness. And it was recommended for reporting, it was recommended for reporting with amendment. I should move the amendment first. So I move the amendment.
The amendment has been moved and second. All in favor, please let it known by just voting verbally, aye or nay.
Aye.
Thank you. Senator Locke.
And on a vote of 4-0, it was recommended, and one abstention, it was recommended for reporting.
Thank you, Senator Locke. Senate Bill 464.
Just make sure the student gets money.
Thank you, Senator Peterson. I see you in queue.
Yeah, I apologize, Madam Chair. I abstained on this bill. I think this bill is a good bit more complicated than we may realize. I'm frankly worried it could place our NCAA eligibility at risk if we don't do this correctly. I'm not saying it's not being done correctly, but it's just moved very quickly through the process. And again, there's a lot of rules out there through a private organization called the NCAA that does not answer to us, by the way, that could put our athletes or our participation at risk. So I'm going to abstain on this again. I beg somebody in this building to take a close look at this before it becomes law.
I do believe we have a motion. Madam Clerk.
Madam Chair. Pardon.
Senator, that's okay. Senator Newman. I recognize Senator Newman.
Madam Chair, I guess the question is, Senator Peterson and others, is I kind of share the concerns. It is moving quickly and it's a huge step. Is this something that we should do this year? I know the subcommittee chair may have heard more than certainly I have, but just wonder whether we're leaning out a little too far on this, or is there something mitigating that I'm unaware of?
Senator Locke?
I mean, we can certainly wait and have the patron of the bill, he's here.
Senator Reeves?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have one line amendment, if we could take it up, that at the request of the junior colleges on the bill.
We will refer to the attorney on that, on the amendment.
It's just strike lines 54 through 58.
Oh, it's a line amendment, okay.
Hold on.
And explain to us what that does, Senator Reeves.
Well, it was setting up where the Chancellor of the Virginia Community College System shall convene a work group to look at intercollegiate athletics. They don't really have that at the junior college level here, so we're just going to take them out of the picture altogether. That's what that
Okay,
amendment
Senator Newman, and then Senator Cosgrove.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, Madam Chair, one option, Senator Reeves, may be that we could tell Chev to go do it and come back to us with the regulation, and that since you're not going into effect until 2024, if you don't struggle with that, Madam Chair, maybe we would consider an amendment that says, Chev, go promulgate what you're going to do, bring it back to us, and we'd still have plenty of time between now and 2024.
That'd be the will of the committee, Madam
Second.
Chair. I'm fine with that.
Okay, and that motion would be stated precisely how?
Then that's a substitute motion.
The substitute motion? Okay, so the recommendation and the motion is then that the bill will be carried over for study with a letter. Senator
I'll
Reeves.
second that.
Okay.
PBI with a letter.
Okay, then the proper motion would be to pass by indefinitely with a letter from the committee.
No.
All in favor?
Madam Chairman, before we do that, please.
Which do you all want, to continue or you want to pass it by with a letter?
Continue it.
Okay, we're gonna continue.
You can't continue with a letter.
Carry it over to a year.
Continue, or PBI with a letter. You can continue and ask the chairman to send a letter outside.
Madam Chairman, I would make a substitute motion
Substitute motion to the substitute motion.
that we carry over with a letter from the chairman asking Chev to have their input into this bill. It has a delayed enactment to 2024. There's no sense in PBIing the bill.
Okay. That's accepted. Okay. So you now heard the motion, which sounds a little convoluted.
Madam
a
Chair,
second.
I'll tell you, there's 3 bills. I don't know how many are coming over from the House, whether they're going to combine them all, but there's going to be a House bill coming over for the same thing, just so you guys are aware.
That won't be a problem.
Okay, you've heard the motion that the bill will be carried over with a letter from the chair, and so all in favor of that motion, please let it be known electronically.
After the bill, we have to kill a House bill.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, for setting us straight. We appreciate that.
14, nay, 0.
Thank you very much. Senator Locke.
Senate Bill 841, we can carry over. No, Senator Peterson's bill,
I'm sorry, what?
which states that George Mason University is interested in taking steps to investigate and pursue the potential of establishing a school of medicine. And it was recommended to be reported from the committee on a vote of 4-0, and I so move.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There was a line amendment, if that could be, all right. Then I would second the motion. Thank you.
So I move the amendment.
Okay, let's, you've heard the motion to, Senator Sasslaw. You've heard the motion to,
We need
agree to
adopt
the amendment. All in favor, please, voice vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Senator Locke.
And with that amendment, I move that the Senate Bill 841 be reported as amended.
Okay, the motion is that Senate Bill 841 be recommended for reporting with an amendment, and this also has to go to finance. So all in favor of that motion, please designate electronically.
Yeas 14, nays 1.
Yeas 14, nays 1. The bill is recommended for reporting with an amendment and referred to finance. Senator Locke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 895, at the request of the patron, he requests that it be stricken from the docket.
Oh,
So move.
and so second.
Yeas 14, nays 0.
Yeas 14, nays 0. The bill will be stricken from the docket. Senator Locke.
Senate Bill 904 I move the substitute.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded that the substitute be agreed to. All in favor, please voice vote. Aye, nay. Thank you, Madam.
Okay, and with that substitute, the issue is that the State Council of Higher Education is being asked to facilitate the development of a statewide coalition of public institutions of higher education and others to gather and share information with regard to the latest evidence-based methods and approaches as it relates to multisensory structured language education regarding dyslexia and literacy. And the subcommittee recommends that this be reported on a vote of 5-0, and I so move.
Senator Locke, we did accept the substitute, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the motion is that the bill be recommended for reporting as amended with the substitute. All in favor of that motion, please designate electronically.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Yeas 15, nays 0. The bill is recommended for reporting with the amended substitute. Senator Locke.
Senate Bill 937 addresses the use of TANF. Oh, there is an amendment, and I move the amendment.
Needs a second.
You've heard the motion to adopt the amendment. All in favor, voice vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Senator Locke.
Senate Bill 937 addresses the use of TANF funding, a TANF-funded scholarship pilot program at the Virginia Community College System, and the subcommittee recommended reporting on a vote of 3-0, and I so move.
Senator Locke moves, Senator Sasslaw seconds that Senate Bill 937 be recommended for reporting
And
with,
referred to finance.
for amendment, with the amendment and be referred to finance. All in favor, please designate electronically. Thank you. Senator Locke.
Yeas 12, nays 3.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'm a little bit in a hurry here. Senator Locke.
Senate Bill 994, there is a substitute, and I move the substitute.
Second.
All in favor of the substitute, please voice vote.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Senator Locke?
Senate Bill 994 provides that the Virginia Military Institute will be grounded. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here regarding it. But what the bill does is to replace current provisions with respect to military scholarships and expands that VMI will confer degrees to include the superintendent and removes the authority of the board to confer honorary degrees and diplomas. And it also removes the requirement that the board get the prior written consent of the governor in order to exercise his powers regarding gifts, grants, devices, and bequests. And on a vote of 5-0, the subcommittee recommends reporting, and I so move.
You've heard the motion and a second that the bill be recommended for reporting with the substitute, and all in favor of or? Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Yeas 15, nays 0. The bill is recommended for reporting with the substitute. Senator Locke?
In Senate Bill 1041, simply as the president of James Madison University or his designee and one non-legislative citizen member to the Online Virginia Network Authority. And on a vote of 3-0, the subcommittee recommends reporting, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that Senate Bill 1041 be recommended for reporting. All in favor of the motion electronically. Thank you.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Yeas 15, nays 0. The bill is recommended for reporting. Senator Locke?
And our final bill was Senate Bill 1068, and at the request of the patron, she wishes to have that continue to 2021, and the subcommittee recommends that we do so. And I so move.
Madam Clerk, just to make sure we're in proper form, so if it's recommended for continuing, that does not have to be with a letter.
No, ma'am.
All in favor of the bill being carried over, please designate electronically. Thank you.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
And Madam Chair, that completes the report of the Higher Education Subcommittee.
Well, Senator Locke, likewise, I'd like to thank you for your hard work on the subcommittee. These subcommittees are really working. We're able to get these measures aired in the subcommittee, and by the time it gets here, it helps us to move the docket along rather swiftly. And so the next report will be given. Senator Cosgrove?
Before you go on, something we haven't been doing in a while, can we have our pages identify themselves?
Yes, that would be wonderful. Do we get new pages each time?
Hey, look at that. Push the little button on your microphone so we can hear you speak. All right.
I'm Bella Dunn.
And where you from?
I'm from Bedford County.
Well, thank you. Senator Newman,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Pull the mic to you.
I'm Grace Squelia, and I'm from Chesapeake.
Oh, that's why he wanted to have you recognized. Okay.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Madam Chairman.
Well, going forward, make sure that I recognize the pages each time we come to the committee, because I was not aware at the moment. I'm so concentrated on the stuff that the staff gives me. Honestly, I can't see anything other than this monitor and this paper. Okay? I can see all those faces out there, but I don't know who they are. But anyway, moving on to our next subcommittee report. Thank you, Senator Cosgrove, for bringing that to my attention. These young people add a whole lot to what we do here. So the next report will be given on health professions, and so I'd like now to call on Senator Barker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Health Professions Committee went through a large number of bills, and we did finish our docket on things so that we took care of everything. We did make several amendments and a couple of substitutes to bills that we had in subcommittee. And by and large, we reached a consensus in terms of how to handle the various issues that were before us. And on the one where there was some difference of opinion on how to proceed, I think Senator Newman will have an amendment that he's worked out with the patron. So actually, we're, I think, in pretty good shape on this. First up is Senate Bill 53 from Senator Stanley. There is a substitute here. What this does is provide opportunity for social workers to be able to get licensed in Virginia if they're licensed in another state with which we've established an agreement, a mutual agreement to provide coverage both ways. The initial bill had made it a broad thing that any social worker who was licensed in any other state could come here into Virginia, but there was concern that that did not provide equitable treatment of Virginia residents who were going elsewhere. So what we have here is a substitute for this that provides where there are agreements that reached and it references neighboring states, that then we would proceed with allowing social workers licensed in another state to practice in Virginia. And that was 7-0 vote of the subcommittee.
Okay, did we need to move the substitute, so.
Yes, move the substitute.
It's been moved and properly seconded that the substitute be agreed to. All in favor, do a voice vote.
Aye.
Thank you, Senator Barker. And so your motion again?
Yes, now the motion is to report the bill.
It's been moved and properly seconded that the bill be recommended for reporting with the substitute. All in favor, please designate electronically.
Yeas 13, nays 0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Senator Newman, for reminding me that I'm Luke and Saslaw right now.
All right, the next bill is Senate Bill 530 from Senator Edwards. This deals with administration of epinephrine by restaurant employees who have been trained to do this and this would establish guidelines for in what circumstances and which individuals would be able to provide that. And the subcommittee recommended reporting on a vote of 7-0, and I'll move to report the bill.
It's been moved and properly seconded that Senate Bill 530 be recommended for reporting. All in favor, please vote electronically. Madam Clerk.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
I'm proxying Saslaw just in case anybody's interested. Right now, I'm Lucas and Saslaw.
Madam Chair, you don't look anything like Saslaw.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that one.
Yeah. All right. Next is Senate Bill 544, also from Senator Edwards. This deals with physicians' assistants being able to be involved in implementing advanced directives, and particularly related to mental health treatment when the individual is incapable of making an informed decision. And there's a couple of amendments. I move the amendments to this bill.
It's been moved and properly second that the amendment be agreed to. All in favor, let's get a voice vote, please. Aye. Senator.
All right, and with
Barker.
that, then the bill was recommended for reporting by a vote of 7-0, and I move that we report the bill.
It's been moved and properly second that the bill be reported with amendment. Please designate electronically. Madam Clerk.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Thank you. The bill is recommended for reporting with the amendment. Senator Barker.
Yes, the next one is also from Senator Edwards, Senate Bill 565. And what this does is provides a little more latitude for nurse practitioners and physicians' assistants who are not required to participate in collaborative agreements with pharmacists. This was a recommendation from the Joint Commission on Healthcare, and there was an amendment to that, so I'll move the amendment.
You've heard the recommendation on the amendment. All in favor of the agreement with the amendment, please vote yea or nay.
Aye.
Thank you.
And with that, with the bill amended, the subcommittee recommended reporting on a vote of 7-0, and I move to report the bill.
It's been moved and properly seconded. The bill be recommended for reporting. Please vote electronically.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Yeas 15, nays 0. The bill will be reported with the amendment. Thank you very much.
All right.
Senator Barker.
Yeah, Senator Edwards has been busy this year.
Yes, he has.
Next is Senate Bill 566 from Senator Edwards. It deals with naloxone and administration of that, and does provide an opportunity for someone who is not otherwise authorized to provide naloxone to do so when they're in a public place and they see someone who is experiencing a life-threatening opioid overdose, it appears, or is about to be able to administer that, as long as it's done in good faith and there's no gross negligence or willful or wanton misconduct. There's an amendment to that, and I would move the amendment.
Second.
You've heard the motion. Thank you. All in favor, voice vote?
Aye.
Senator Barker.
All right, and then with that amendment, the subcommittee recommended reporting, and I move to report the bill with the amendment.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded that the bill be recommended for reporting with the amendment. All in favor, vote electronically. Madam Clerk.
Sassel.
I'm acting just like it.
That's right.
Vote late? Not at all. Please excuse my comedy up here,
Yeah.
Senator Barker.
All right, next bill is Senate Bill 575 by Senator Donovan. This deals with disclosure of information back and forth between the prescription monitoring program and the Emergency Department Information Exchange, which we've established just over the last couple of years, and would allow them to give them latitude to be able to provide the information that is necessary to be able to help deal with certain situations there. There are a couple of amendments. I will move the amendments now.
You've heard the motion. All in favor, voice vote, please. Thank you. Senator Barker.
And with that, the subcommittee recommended reporting with the amendments on a vote of 7-0, and I move to that we report the bill with those amendments.
It's been moved and properly second. Please vote electronically. Thank you so much. Madam Clerk. He's finally here.
Yeas 15,
All right.
nays 0.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
All right, next is Senate Bill 760 from Senator Deeds, who is here. If anyone has any questions or anything, what this would do is have Virginia join a psychology interjurisdictional compact, which would basically mean the same standards would be applied to people getting licensed as psychologists in Virginia as in other compact member states, and would make us one of those states. The effective date of this would be January of 2021, and directs the Board of Psychology to adopt emergency regulations to implement it. There are no amendments or substitute for this bill, but the subcommittee recommended reporting on a vote of 7-0, and I move that we report the bill.
It's been moved and properly seconded that the bill be reported. Please designate electronically. Madam Clerk. Everybody's here.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Yeas 15, nays 0. The bill is recommended for reporting. Senator Barker.
All right, the next one is Senate Bill 830 from Senator Lewis. This deals with pharmacy technicians and pharmacy technician trainees and registration of that. It amends the eligibility criteria for registration as a pharmacy technician and does provide a separate designation for pharmacy technician trainees and sets out the requirements for their registration as a trainee prior to being able to, for them being able to get the full endorsement as a pharmacy technician. There is a substitute for this. I move the substitute.
It has been moved and properly seconded that the substitute be agreed to. All in favor, voice vote.
Aye.
Aye. Senator Barker.
And with that, the substitute was recommended for reporting on a vote of 6-0 with one abstention, and I move that we report the bill with a substitute.
Been moved and properly seconded that Senate Bill 830 be recommended for reporting with a substitute. Vote electronically.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Yeas 15, nays 0. The bill is recommended for reporting. Senator Barker.
All right, next bill is Senate Bill 836 from Senator Sudaline. This deals with, wait a second. Okay. I thought I meant.
Naloxone? Naloxone?
Oh, actually, well, I described Senator Edwards' bill on naloxone was a different bill. The bill that I described as Senator Edwards is actually Senator Sudaline's. Well, you two have neighboring districts, but so it must flow over. But anyway, so on 836, this deals with the administration in a public place of a naloxone for someone who's see someone who has apparently had an opioid overdose or is about to have an opioid overdose. So there was no amendments or substitute on this one, and the subcommittee recommended reporting on 7-0 vote, and I move that we report the bill.
Madam Chairman.
It's been moved and properly second that the bill be recommended for reporting.
Madam Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you. Just a quick question here. Now, this is an injectable naloxone, correct?
No, I think this does not include the injectable formulation. So this
Okay.
is not an injectable formulation here, so.
Second question, and it's probably for the sponsor of the bill. I mean, I guess the
Senator
question
Sullivan.
is, who's running around with naloxone in their pocket? I guess, you know.
So, Madam Chair?
Senator Shuline.
So, it being a public place, the idea is a lot of basically any place that has a lot of people come through it. So there'd be large retailers, might want to have someone that does it. Basically, any place that has a few thousand people come through a day, might be interested in having, in the same way they have someone there that's CPR trained and other such things.
Okay, all right, thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Shuline. Senator Barker?
Excuse me, I was, what was,
No, Senator Shuline just to respond to a question from Senator Cosgrove.
okay,
So
all
you
right.
want
Yeah, with that.
motion?
Yeah, the motion is to report the bill, which is recommended reporting on a 7-0 vote.
You've heard the motion, all in favor? And there was a second. Vote electronically, please. Thank you.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Yeas 15, nays 0. The bill is recommended for reporting. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Senator Barker?
All right, next bill is Senate Bill 976 from Senator Marston, who's here to be able to, and could answer questions if there are. This is dealing with the pharmaceutical processors who are developing cannabinoid oils that certainly we've dealt with a good bit over the last few years. And what it would do is it would establish a process whereby from various batches of the product that are being developed, that a sample of that batch would be set aside and would go to an independent laboratory, so it would not be the laboratory doing the processing of the oil itself, to verify that the way that the oil that's being generated here would comply with standards. And with that, there is the substitute that is amended, so I move that we adopt the substitute.
The motion is to adopt the substitute and the second. All in favor of adopting the substitute, please voice vote.
Aye.
Thank you.
And do I need to make a separate amendment, motion on the amendment? No, okay, because that had in there. All right, and with that, the subcommittee recommended reporting on a vote of 6-0 of the amended substitute, and I move that we report the bill with the amended substitute.
You've heard the motion and the second. The bill. Thank you.
No public comment? No public comment?
All the comments were heard in the subcommittee.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Yeas 15, nays 0. The bill is recommended for reporting with an amended substitute.
All right, the next bill is Senate Bill 982 from Senator Hashmi, and she asked that this bill be stricken, so I move to strike the bill.
Been moved and probably seconded, the bill be stricken. Please vote electronically. Thank you.
All right, and then the one after that is Senate Bill 1026 from Senator Donovan. This deals with what authority that pharmacists have. Pharmacists are extensively trained to be able to be participating members of medical teams, and this would, in effect, sort of provide additional procedures and things that they can be directly involved in. And there was an amended substitute for this as well, so I would move the substitute as amended be adopted.
You've heard the motion for the amended substitute. All in favor, please voice vote aye or nay.
Aye.
Thank you. All right.
There
Senator
was
Barker.
considerable discussion on this bill, and there was some questions about things, but in the end, we recommended reporting on a vote of 5-0 with 2 abstentions.
The motion is that Senate Bill 1026 be recommended for reporting with an amended substitute. All in favor of that did I get a second to that? Second. I did. Thank you. Second. So it's been moved and properly second that the bill be recommended for reporting. Vote electronically, please. Thank you. Madam Clerk. Senator Saslaw, I don't have your proxy any longer. Thank you.
Yeas 14, nays 0.
Yeas 14, nays 0, 1 abstention. The bill is recommended for reporting with an amended substitute. Thank you very much.
All right, and the last bill from this subcommittee is Senate Bill 1074 from Senator McClellan. This is one dealing with administration of Schedule 6 controlled substances with syringes and needles, and a limited use license for nonprofit facilities to be able to administer these drugs directly with a particular license is provided. Senator Newman's been working with Senator McClellan on this issue, and what I would ask is that this go by temporarily.
Yes.
So,
The bill will go by temporarily.
and that's the last bill of this particular subcommittee, so.
Okay, I think that was the temporary. Okay, so you still. Okay, that bill will go by temporarily, and so we're gonna move now into the COPN subcommittee, and Senator Barker, you're still up.
All right, I'm not sure that I want to still be up, but this is a little different from the subcommittee report here is very different from the one that I just went through, which were basically all unanimous recommendations. We reached consensus on certificate of public need there. I'm sure you're shocked to know that we did not reach consensus on everything.
I am very
And
shocked.
so what we have was a number of bills that were 3-2, 3-3 in very close votes. So I think there may be some discussion among the committee members on these. We did take testimony from all the from the public on the bills that we went through, and we dealt with all the bills that were on the docket, with the exception of your bill, Senator Lucas, that's back on sort of the main thing, because since you could not be there at that meeting, we're off dealing with some casinos or something, I think.
I was off, that's exactly right. I was out dealing with casino stuff.
All right. The first bill is Senate Bill 279, which was my bill. And what it did was, in effect, addressed, I got noise over here, but.
I understand.
Yes. So anyway, the Senate Bill 279, what it does, it allows the Commissioner of Health in making a decision on a certificate of public need to be able to incorporate the need by all people who would use that facility or already are using that facility in making a decision on things. What is there now is as reference to a service area, but not necessarily the people outside that service area using that particular service at a particular facility. This was the one on which I think there was consensus, and it was about a 6-0 on this one, and I would move that we report the bill.
It has been moved and properly second that Senate Bill 279 coming out of the subcommittee on COPN be recommended for reporting. All in favor of that motion, please let it be known electronically.
This was mine, just on people outside.
Madam Clerk?
Yeah, this one is good.
Yeas 13, nays 1.
Yeas 13, nays 1. The bill is recommended for reporting. Senator Barker.
All right, Senator Peterson even voted for that one, so, that's right. So the next bill is Senate Bill 330 from Senator Deeds, who is here. He was unable to be at the subcommittee meeting, so what we did was we had the bill presented by staff from the Health Department and discussion, and there was a full hearing of it with testimony both for and against the bill. What this would do is it would eliminate psychiatric beds and facilities from coverage under the Certificate of Public Need law. We've had bills like this the last several years, and they have not been unanimous votes, but they have not moved forward and been passed. So Senator Deeds brought this again this year on this. So what it would do is it would directly remove psychiatric beds and facilities from a Certificate of Public Need control. I think there may be some discussion on this. I do want to comment on it.
I wasn't there, George Chair.
I do want to.
Senator Barker, could you please excuse me for a minute? Stop
Sure.
while I finish listening to Senator Sasslaw. Tell me again. No, that's the first one. Senator Barker?
Yeah, yes, I think there may be discussion within
Senator Barker,
within
could you
the,
suspend one more second, please? All right, we're straight now. Senator Barker.
all right, I'm glad you're straight. So this bill was
He
recommended.
wanted me to tell him how I voted him.
Okay.
Okay.
Properly, I'm sure.
Yes.
So this was vote 3-2 to recommend reporting, but I think there may be discussion on this particular issue. I wanted to offer some comments personally after getting this, the amendment made here, I mean, the motion made here. So on behalf of the subcommittee, I move that we report the bill. And Madam Chair, if I could, just
Yes,
to
sir, go
address
right ahead.
some of the issue,
And is
since we've had extensive
Senator Deeds
discussions. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Senator Barker.
Well, actually, Senator Deed, since he was not at the subcommittee, may want to say a few words.
Yes.
So.
Is that our hospitals, our public hospitals are between 99% and 100% full all the time. All the evidence out there suggests that anything above 85% puts staff and patients at risk. And the reality is, police officers are called to Central State and the Northern Virginia Institute for Mental Health nearly every single day because a staff member's been assaulted. We've simply got to have more space, and I would prefer to have it in the private sector than in the public sector. Now, we think this will create about 94 additional beds a year, psychiatric beds a year in the private sector. And that's essentially what the bill's about, but this is an administration bill.
Senator Suderline.
Isn't this the approach that?
Senator Suderline, is your mic on, sir?
It's Senator Sturdivant's approach.
Yeah, as you say, isn't this the approach that Senator Sturtevant pursued? And we recommended report out of this committee, but it was defeated on the floor with a lot of folks not liking it. I mean, so shouldn't this have been something we
Yes.
should have done last year then?
Yeah, we've had this bill actually more than once before, but Senator Sturdivant was one who did carry the bill. And sometimes it's been defeated in committee, sometimes it's been defeated on the floor.
Yeah, I think last year it was on the floor. All right, thank you.
Right.
Well, thank you, Senator Suderline. Senator Cosgrove's in the queue next, and I think Senator Newman.
Thank you. Thank
I'm
you,
sorry,
Madam.
Senator Cosgrove.
Thank
Senator
you, Madam
Barker.
Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope it will support this bill. I know that COPN is a dicey thing, but Senator Deeds and I serve on the Mental Health Study Committee, and we have for the last 6 years, I believe. We know that mental health is a serious crisis in Virginia, and there are greater needs in different parts of the Commonwealth. This bill, I think, would go a long way in providing psychiatric beds throughout the entire Commonwealth, where there is a shortage of them now. I hope that we would support this bill and send it to the floor. If we want to discuss it there, that's fine, but I know that especially in the Hampton Roads area, we have a shortage of psychiatric beds, and this would go a long ways in fixing that shortage. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Barker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I speak in opposition to the bill here, and have previously, so it's not inconsistent with the position I've been taking on this. There actually have been, I think this bill might make sense if there were clear indication that their certificate of need was an impediment to approval of additional beds, or if it was going to solve a problem. I think that is not necessarily the case. What we've seen over the last 5 to 6 years, as reported by the Health Department at the subcommittee meeting, was that there have been 21 applications, and 20 of those 21 have been approved. So it's not been an impediment. We are adding substantial numbers of additional beds. The only one that was not approved was a proposal for a freestanding psychiatric facility in Prince William County, just a few feet outside my district. That what was found there was that there was not an overwhelming or compelling need for it, and that if that had been approved, it would not have provided full services to all payer categories and to in terms of emergency department, they would not have had an emergency department to be able to treat people with psychiatric emergencies, and it might well have resulted in closure of the only psychiatric unit that exists in Prince William right now in a community hospital of 32 beds. So there were compelling reasons for that one being denied. If this legislation had been in place at that time, then that facility would have gone forward, and I think there might have been detrimental effects to the community. We've been dealing with a situation where there's significant increases in demands, and certainly we've dealt with a lot on the commission that Senator Deeds chairs on mental health services in the 21st century. We've put a lot of money in over the last several years to try to provide STEP Virginia to provide services up front so that people don't get to the point where they're in crisis and need to be hospitalized, as well as supportive housing, funding for supportive housing, because a lot of the people who are in state hospitals may have needed to be there when they were in crisis, but they're there sometimes months afterwards because we have no place to put them. So we're moving in the direction of addressing those issues. In addition, what we've had is that the beds in the community hospitals often they are not available, certain numbers of them, because they cannot staff them adequately. And the concern that I have is that if we add more facilities who are providing these services, it would further deplete the staffing capability and result in even greater numbers of beds being physically there but not staffed to be able to provide services to people. And finally, I would say that I think there are ways in which we could do a much better job of addressing the collaboration between the community hospitals and the state hospitals as a result of some of the frustrations that I've had on this issue. We put language in the budget last year to have the community hospitals and state facilities and community services boards in Northern Virginia work together to see if they could affect the number of people sent to the Northern Virginia Mental Health Institute. And just in the first 4 months of this fiscal year, they have been able to reduce the number of TDOs going to Northern Virginia Mental Health Institute by over 20% and to increase the number going to the private hospitals, community hospitals, by about 25%. So the system can work if we work with it. And I think that it would be better to continue along the path that we're working on now rather than adopt this legislation.
Madam Chair, I don't disagree a whole lot with much of what my friend Senator Barker said. Senator Barker and Senator Cosgrove are both on the subcommittee to study mental health. But we are at crisis now. We are at crisis. And our hospitals are jam-packed full. There's not been a lot of willingness on our part to come up with the funding to build additional beds in the public system. And I'm not sure that we ought to be about building new public beds. I think we have plenty of space in the private sector to take care of our hospitalization needs. This bill is designed to allow us to create more beds in the private sector, and I hope you will pass it. You know, and I understand this is not an issue that I've come to easily. I generally support the COPN process, but I think there's a reason for an exception here, and that's been borne out over the last few years when our public system has been in crisis with its census being way too high. The staffing issues Senator Barker identified are absolutely correct. We are understaffed everywhere, but I will tell you, when your hospitals are at 95 to 100% full, and you've got a staffing problem, there's literally no way you can keep everybody safe, much less get them well. This is about creating more space so we can spread people out and take pressure off of the public system. And I hope you'll report the bill. And I want you to know this is a conversation we continue to have. You know, the Hospital Association has said to me multiple times over the last few years, we're working toward a solution. Well, we're working toward a solution. But you know what? We never get there. We never get there. I just want the discussion to continue, and I hope you'll report the bill.
You've heard the last word from the patron, and you've heard the commentary from the chair of the COPN committee. And Senator Barker, I'm going to return to you again for your recommendation.
The subcommittee recommended on a vote of 3-2 to report the bill, and so on behalf of the subcommittee, I make the motion to report the bill.
You've heard the motion and the second that the bill be recommended for reporting. Please let your desires be known electronically.
Yeas 8, nays 7.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yeas 8, nays 7. The bill is recommended for reporting. Senator Barker.
Turning the page. Senate Bill 413 from Senator Cosgrove. He asked that bill be stricken, and I make the motion to strike the bill.
Moved and seconded the bill be stricken. Electronic vote. Thank you. Senator Barker.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
All right, next is Senate Bill 503 from Senator Peterson, who was just behind us on this great bill. But what we have here was, we debated this at some length, but before he had to get back to the Agricultural Committee he chairs. And there was no consensus on this bill. There was a motion to recommend reporting, and it failed on a 3-3 vote. What this bill would do would be able to provide an expedited review process for certain services, which would include ambulatory surgery and diagnostic imaging services. One of the concerns that was expressed in testimony on that and in public comment, as well as discussion within the subcommittee, was that the reimbursement system for healthcare services is not the best it could be. There are a lot of services, some services for which facilities lose money. There are other services where they basically break even, and there are some services where that are highly profitable. The two that are always cited in discussions of the highly profitable ones are the ambulatory surgery and diagnostic imaging, which would be the subject of this legislation. And I think that in reality, in terms of that, it has a potential for having significant negative effect upon existing facilities who provide both some profitable services, but also some unprofitable services that are needed by the community. So there is no motion from the committee on that because it was a 3-3 vote. And we can proceed discussion on it at this point.
Madam Chair.
I see Senator Peterson in the queue and also Senator Donovan in the order.
I'll be happy to speak, and I think Senator Barker summarized the bill pretty succinctly and pretty fairly. It basically creates expedited review for 4 categories of medical treatment. One, Senator Deeds already addressed, which was psych beds. Then it also has ambulatory surgery, diagnostic imaging with MRIs and CT scans, and then a single operating room at an existing facility for ambulatory surgery. I won't go into all the details. We did spend a lot of time in subcommittee on it, but basically it's intended to drive down cost and access to health care. And I understand the hospitals are opposed to it, and I think you can figure out where you line up on that, but that is the bill.
Senator Peterson, did I hear you make a motion to PBI?
PBI?
No. Senator Barker. Senator Donovan, I'm sorry, I thought I saw, go ahead. Senator Donovan.
Sorry. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just to speak to the bill, this is an ongoing epic, and just to give a little bit of historical perspective, there are 2 ways you can go here. You can retain the services that are highly profitable in hospitals, which assess facility fees to those procedures, making it more expensive to provide those diagnostic radiology and surgery in a hospital than it is to provide it in an outpatient setting. Hospitals were guaranteed historically these services with the COPN code because Virginia failed to pay them adequately for Medicaid. Virginia corrected that problem with Medicaid expansion. What really should have happened is that COPN reform should have been included in Medicaid expansion, and there was a failure there. Bottom line is, the hospitals spoke against this bill. This is the only COPN bill they spoke against. No, I'm sorry. They spoke against all of them. There's only one they spoke in favor of. But they spoke against this bill because they opined that losing these services might be a price tag of somewhere around $700 million, and that they could not afford that change in their bottom line. They did admit that that was a generous estimate and it would unlikely be that high. However, we have reports from DMAS that going forward, the increased margin that hospitals will get as a result of Medicaid expansion per year is $1.2 billion. If you take $700 million out of that, they're still profiting an additional $500 million annually. If you want to reduce the cost of health care for your citizens, you cannot simply secure the business model of the hospital system in the state. You've got to create competition. And we need to be able to offer lower cost services like our neighbors do in Maryland, where people go across the border and we don't provide services for those interventions. And in order to do that, you have to take away the monopoly that exists with hospitals on these services. I beseech you to pass this bill. This is in the best interest of your constituents. It's in the best interest of the cost of health care, and it's the best interest of Virginia. And you already fixed a financial problem so that our hospitals are whole and safe. They don't need to double dip. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Donovan. Senator Barker, and then Senator Edwards in queue.
Just quickly, a couple of things. One of the things is that, as is cited by Senator Donovan, there is substantial additional money from the Medicaid patients that goes into the hospitals. However, I point out two things. One is that hospitals themselves are helping support that, so that we do not have an open-ended system. The other is that there's no question but that private insurers in the commercial insurance market will over time reduce the amount that they are providing to the hospitals, because historically they have provided funds to cover the cost of care at the hospitals for their members and enrollees, but also what added to that, so that they provided more than what it costs there to be able to cover the cost of those who are uninsured. With the number who are uninsured going down, that they will be decreasing that. And I think that combination of that, and we'll see how that plays out over the next couple of years, it would be unwise to, in effect, further damage the hospitals who actually are the ones who help us get Medicaid expansion with providing the state share of funding for that.
Net.
So we just give it to the doctors.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I tend to associate my views with those of Senator Donovan and also with Senator Peterson, and here's why. I've thought for a long time that if we expanded Medicaid, which we've done, that would help the hospitals enormously, because they're losing money on Medicaid, being underfunded and not having enough Medicaid to patients. And I think that has helped the hospitals, and it should help the system. How many people are now on Medicaid expansion? 350, 400,000, whatever the figure is now. That's been and plus we got the reimbursement rate up. The other thing, though, is this. The system, the process system of COPN is broken. There's only one hearing officer. I worked on the subcommittee in '02, I think it was, or whenever it was, back years ago, to reform the process. We had at least 3 hearing officers then, and the idea was to get the decision on COPN decided within 6 months. I don't know when the last time was any process was accomplished in 6 months. Now they take forever. And one of the reasons is there's only one hearing officer. There were 3 hearing officers back 20 years ago or so. And so until we can fix the process to get decisions made in a more expedited fashion and a less expensive fashion, I think we are tilting at windmills when we say we can fix the COPN system. And until we can add more hearing officers and make the process faster, we got a real problem. So I'm going to vote for the bill.
Thank you, Senator Edwards. Senator Newman?
Madam Chair, I guess it doesn't surprise anyone that I'm in favor of the bill, but I think the creativity of Senator Peterson is beyond what we've seen in the past. It calls for an expedited process, and one of the problems, I think, with the bill that we just, Senator Deeds' bill, is the question was asked, how many applications were there? And said, well, just one. Well, there's a reason for that. They deny them all. That's why. They kill them all. And so, Senator Deeds, that's why you don't get them, is because they don't do it. Madam Chair, I think that Senator Peterson is smarter than I and others by so much more, but this bill would give us an opportunity to at least have an expedited process to get down that way. I would hope we would support the bill, Madam Chair.
I think you just made another best friend. Senator Edwards, if you have no more questions, could you please turn off your light? Senator Sulan, were you in queue before I cleared? Okay.
I was just looking at that, I have to make a motion.
Okay.
I made a motion, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Nation second. To report the bill.
Okay.
Second.
There's a motion and a second that the bill.
Madam
Chairman. Senator Cosgrove.
Substitute motion to PBI.
Substitute motion takes precedent. All in favor of?
Second.
I knew that was coming. All in favor of the substitute motion to pass by indefinite, please designate electronically.
Yeas 9, nays 6.
Yeas 9, nays 6. The bill is PPI.
All right.
Senator Barker.
The next bill is Senate Bill 523 from Senator McDougal. This bill failed there was a motion to recommend reporting that failed on a vote of 2 to 3. So there's majority against this particular bill. What it would do is it exempts certain facilities and centers and clinics from the certificate of need provisions for certain services. And there was discussion of that, and in the end, the committee voted with 3 opposed to this bill and 2 in favor. And I would move that we recommend that we pass the bill by indefinitely.
It's been moved and seconded that the bill be passed by indefinitely. All in favor of that motion, please vote electronically. Madam Clerk.
Yeas 12, nays 3.
Yeas 12, nays 3. The bill will be passed by indefinitely. Senator Barker?
All right, the next bill is Senate Bill 764, which is my bill here today. What this does is it makes a number of changes to the Certificate of Public Need process and eliminates coverage for various services. This was actually a product largely of a work group that met a few years ago and did reach consensus on these issues. The recommendation of that group, however, has not moved forward yet because there was resistance from some people who wanted it to go further beyond what the consensus was. So this is basically a consensus bill that makes improvements to the process that is established and also eliminates lithotripsy, magnetic source imaging, various other services that were found to not necessarily be the ones that should be covered under the Certificate of Public Need law. There were amendments that were made to the bill, and I will move the amendments.
The amendments, a second? It's been moved and properly second that the amendments be reported. Agreed to, all in favor, just voice vote, please. Aye. And the motion, Senator Barker?
And then with those amendments, then the motion was to recommend reporting with those amendments on a 3-2 vote with 1 abstention. And I move that we report the bill with the amendments and re-refer to finance.
Correct. Did I get a second? It's been moved and properly second that the bill be recommended for reporting with the amendments and then referred to finance. All in favor, please vote electronically. Nays have the same right. The bill is recommended for reporting. Madam Clerk?
Yeas 9, nays 6.
9 to 6.
Madam.
And we have one other one
Madam Chair.
that,
Oh, Senator Peak, I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I would ask, I haven't voted on the prevailing side since we're still in this on 330. Senator Deeds' bill on psychiatric beds, haven't voted on the prevailing side, that we bring that back up. I've spoken to Senator Deeds. I had a proxy and I misvoted the proxy. I'd ask that we reconsider that vote.
Okay, the motion is to reconsider the vote on Senate Bill 330. Madam Clerk, open the roll.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Yeas 15, nays 0. Senator Peak, did you have a
But Senator Deeds' bill, I asked, we,
report bill?
the motion was to report.
Right. It's been moved and properly second that the bill be reported. All in favor, please let it be known electronically.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeas 7, nays 8.
Yeas 7, nays 8. Senator Deeds, the bill is not reported.
all right, Madam Chair, the last one that we acted on was Senate Bill 1081 from Senator Sudeline. This is another one that dealing with an issue that we've dealt with for several years in this particular committee. What it would do is would provide that notwithstanding other provisions of law and regulation, an application for a specific service, which is a neonatal intensive care unit proposed at the hospital in Salem. And would be determined to be consistent with the state medical facilities plan, and therefore would be approved by the commissioner. There have been certificate of public need applications that have been reviewed, but not approved by the Commissioner of Health. And so the vote on this is to recommend reporting on a vote of 3-2. And even though I was one of the 2 that voted against this, I think we need to, the motion that I make is to report the bill.
It's been moved and properly second that Senate Bill 1081 be recommended for reporting.
Madam Chairman,
Senator Cosgrove.
before we do this, just understand, this is for critical care for neonatal patients, some of the most vulnerable of patients. Senator Suderline, expressed the need for speedy access to this type of facility. My mother was a registered nurse. She worked in labor and delivery. Her specialty was preemies. This type of patient is the most vulnerable, and I really, really hope that we'll pass this particular bill. I know COPN is difficult, but this is a critical need, so please, please vote yes on this. Thank you.
Senator Edwards and Senator Barker. Well, Senator Barker, I'm sorry, I see you in queue first, and then Senator Edwards.
Madam Chair, the 2 senators that represent the Roanoke Valley, Senator Suderline and I, have supported the Lewis Gale application. My understanding is Carillion indicated there were the other major hospital in the area has withdrawn any opposition, yet the process failed, and I strongly support the bill.
Senator Barker, you in queue next.
Madam
And then Senator Suderline.
Madam Chair, I think that obviously this is a significant issue in the Roanoke area, but I think that we need to make sure that we're not second-guessing and overriding the actions of the people that we put in charge of this, who have the expertise to be able to evaluate all the information and make a decision on this. So I would hope that we would defeat the bill, the recommendation to report the bill.
Senator Suderline.
Madam Chair, thank you. Senator Edwards was exactly correct in his statements there about this being something that we've pursued in the Roanoke Valley for some time. Our other large healthcare provider does not have a negative position on it. They are neutral. And it's something that's incredibly important to folks in Senator Edwards' district and my district and anyone else that finds themselves close to 81 when they're expecting to deliver. Something that needs to also be pointed out is that when this went through the COPN process, the hearing officer, who Senator Edwards and I traveled from Roanoke to Richmond, which isn't that close, to testify, we got a favorable recommendation from the hearing officer. So that the folks that listened to all the testimony, they did that. Unfortunately, I think that inertia being what it is, because they had previously denied one, they continue to deny it. In the denial, they said that we didn't have enough beds being pursued at Salem, even though there are several NICUs at this level that also don't have as many beds as they said it should be. It's incredibly important for mothers to be able to deliver with their children and not have to send their children to another hospital when they're in that most vulnerable state that's already very vulnerable, but the child then has something. We've had testimony before from the folks that have seen firsthand when we've lost babies during the transfer, during that golden hour. So this is very important, and I hope the committee will support the bill.
Senator Edwards, if you're done, I'd like for you to turn off your light. Thank you. You've heard the motion from... I'm sorry, you've heard the motion from the subcommittee chair. And Senator Barker has already, there's a motion and a second. So all in favor of that motion, please designate electronically.
Yeas 8, nays 7.
Yeas 8, nays 7. The bill is reported. The last bill in this section is a bill that I was not able to get to the committee because, as Senator Barker said, I was dealing with some, casino stuff. And so at this time, I'm gonna turn the gavel over to Senator Saslaw, but before I do, I want to set the parameters. Senator Saslaw, I want you to turn on the clock. We're gonna have 5 minutes each side. And when the 5 minutes is up, whether I'm talking or whoever's talking, please turn off the mic and the monitor.
This is on the lectern.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I have before you Senate Bill 983. Members of the committee and Mr. Chair, members of the committee, a growing and concerning trend in Virginia is the proliferation of freestanding emergency departments. There are facilities that are not located on hospital campuses, but rather in communities in the most urban parts of the Commonwealth, but not just any communities. They are located in communities that are affluent and have an abundance of commercially insured healthcare consumers. They're not located in our communities of greater need. But before I go on further, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I have some line amendments. And if you would go to the bill, you could pass those out for me.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Newman.
I move the line amendments. They basically just make sure that the problem that Senator Lucas is after is solved, and I would move that the Planning District 20 be added.
Thank you, Senator Newman.
All those in favor of adopting the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Amendments are adopted.
Thank you, Senator Newman. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, the certificate of need process, and I emphasize need, is in place to ensure appropriate access to care for all Virginians. As is seen in a growing number of states around the country, more and more hospitals are using these facilities as a mechanism to increase their market share, not as a way to increase access to care where it's needed most. What's of even greater concern is that these facilities are very often located close to existing and competing acute care hospitals. Some here in Virginia are as close as 1 mile from a hospital. Yes, a hospital that has an emergency department. Additionally, consumers are confused. They often mistake freestanding emergency department for urgent care centers. It's not until they receive their bill that they realize it was not an urgent care center, but rather an emergency room that charges just like it is located on a hospital campus. And that can be as much as 10 to 12 times more than typical urgent care cost. And so with that, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I'd like for you to call up those in support of the bills and of course those who support the bills and those who oppose.
Okay, 5 minutes from each side. Those who are in favor, first, are there any questions of Senator Lucas by committee members?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to reemphasize the fact that the line amendments was to restrict this to Planning District 20.
Okay.
That's my only commentary.
What municipalities? That's
Hampton
all of
Roads.
Hampton Roads?
Yes.
Okay. All right, in favor of the bill? All right, start the clock. Oh, excuse me, don't start the clock. Senator Barker.
Actually, this Planning District 20 has been basically replaced by Planning District 23, which includes both what used to be 20 and 21. So Planning District 20 is only the south side of Hampton Roads. So you would have to use, if you did it with Planning District 20, it would only be the south side of Hampton Roads.
Does that cover?
Okay. When we looked at the map this morning, when the Senate staff, clerk staff looked at the map this morning, it showed us that Planning District 20 would include Chesapeake, which is where these facilities are going to be constructed.
Mr. Chairman.
And Planning District 23 was, as you indicated, we are on the south side, right, correct.
So
That is
it's
correct.
Planning District 20.
Planning District 20, which would include Chesapeake, that Senator Cosgrove and I both represent, which includes Chesapeake Regional Hospital.
All right.
We want to
Senator
restrict it to
Cosgrove.
that planning district.
Okay. All right, the first person to start the clock.
What they did was they combined.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Curtis Byrd, Chesapeake Regional Healthcare. We appreciate Senator Lucas's bringing this bill forward. It has been before this body the last couple of years. We know what these facilities are. They are facilities that are to grow the bottom lines of large healthcare organizations and at the same time confusing consumers. It was suggested earlier this week that if this were to take place, that the criteria necessary in evaluating whether these facilities demonstrated the appropriate need is not in place, although I would offer that the state medical facilities plan has 5 core criteria that the agency looks at regularly when reviewing applications that are not specifically spelled out in the state medical facilities plan. For example, intermediate psych beds. There are no criteria for that, so the agency has relied upon its core criteria and has drawn in analogous criteria for acute care beds. So the agency does have the ability to assess need for these facilities once this were to become law, and until such time that specific criteria could be adopted and added into the state medical facilities plan. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else in favor of the bill? All right. Those who have an opposite point of view.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Brent Rawlings, Virginia Hospital and Healthcare Association. We share some of the concerns that Senator Lucas has with the proliferation of freestanding EDs. We've seen this in other states. In subcommittee, we raised the point that our concern lies more with the question of whether or not we ought to be approaching this through COPN as opposed to thinking through this in terms of licensure. We currently don't have any statute or regulation that tells us what to do about these facilities, whether we're talking about hospital-affiliated emergency departments as opposed to emergency departments. What about those that are not affiliated with a hospital? What about those that are located beyond 35 miles from a hospital? We don't have any answer to that question today. The only other thing I just want to, and so would encourage you to look at this from a different perspective. We think maybe the COPN question is a little premature. I do, on behalf of our membership, however, do want to take exception to some of the comments that were made about the nefarious nature of these facilities. I think that's not a fair commentary. I can give you an example of one of these facilities that's located in New Kent that was recently developed. They don't have any access to these types of services in that area, and that provides them a need. There is no other service in all of New Kent that provides those services. So they are doing good, and we need to be careful about how we approach this. So I thank you for your consideration.
I accept that with those comments.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Next.
Mr. Chairman, Tyler Bishop on behalf of HCA Virginia Health System. I know many of you heard that we were opposed to the bill. We appreciate the chairwoman patron's willingness to limit it to that planning district, so therefore we are now neutral on the legislation.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. You've heard anybody else? All right. Bill's before you.
Mr. Chairman, I move to report the bill.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Yeas 13, nays 2.
Staff, could you correct my votes? Like I got them reversed. I meant to vote no for myself and yes for Senator Peterson, rather than the opposite. Doesn't change the outcome, so.
Madam Chair,
Senator Newman.
if at all possible, to return to Senator McClellan's bill that was in the subcommittee on public health. I think that we understand where we are on that now.
Madam Chair, do you want to hear a report from the subcommittee?
Yes.
Yeah, the subcommittee discussed this. There were some issues and concerns that were discussed and raised there. I think there's been an effort to try to reach consensus and to address some of those. The subcommittee recommended reporting on a vote of 4-2.
Madam Chair.
Senator Newman.
There is a amendment that we've been discussing, and as I understand it, the patron is not opposed to the amendment.
That is
Report the
correct.
amendment.
Yes.
So on line 23, after substances, insert excluding the combination of misoprostol and methotrexate, comma.
Madam Chairman, I move the amendment.
It's been moved and second that the amendment be agreed to. All in favor, voice vote? Aye. Senator McClellan?
Senator Barker, maybe.
I'm sorry, Senator Barker?
The subcommittee recommended reporting by a vote of 4-2, and I will, with the amendment that's been made, I will move that we report with the amendment.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that the bill be recommended for reporting. All in favor, please designate electronically. My fingers are cold and that won't, Janet, touch that for me.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I
Yeas
have
15, nays
I have
0.
another one, but I think it's part of a subcommittee report, maybe.
We've given the subcommittee, well, you know, there are a couple bills in the subcommittees that we did not take action on. And let me make sure that one of those is not yours. Senator McClellan, we do have we have Senate Bill 712 while you're still there.
Yes.
Yes, please.
So at the last meeting, I had a cleanup substitute to conform this to the House version that was never adopted.
That's the bill that was passed by for the day
Yes.
last week, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
This is the Pregnant Worker Fairness Act, and there were some questions that were raised at the last meeting that I think demonstrated some of the confusion that we are trying to address with this bill. This bill would make clear that employers have a duty to provide reasonable accommodations to pregnant and lactating workers. It gives guidance as to what reasonable accommodations are. It has makes clear that an employer is not required to make an accommodation if it would create an undue hardship. There were a couple of questions, particularly around lactating workers, and I wanted to make clear, currently under federal law, under FLSA, hourly employees for any employer, regardless of size, 1 employee to 5,000, employers have to already provide break time and a space that is not a bathroom to pump. That is under federal law. And the issue really is that there's a gap between federal law for management workers who are exempt under FLSA. So just want to make clear that in the situations that Senator Saslaw asked about and Senator Peterson asked about, they are already required by federal law to provide a non-bathroom place and a break to pump as long as that does not create an undue burden. For example, under federal law, you would not be required to build a new space for them. So if it's an undue burden to provide that space, you don't have to do it. That's federal law. This bill does not change that. There were also some questions about the potential for litigation. And as I stated, and I'll reiterate, in the states where they have adopted laws similar to this, and the 2 states that this is most similar to, which are the most recent states, are Kentucky and South Carolina. what they have found and why the Kentucky and the South Carolina chambers supported this is that, particularly for small businesses, right now, under federal law, anti-pregnancy discrimination is sort of a patchwork of case law that it's really unclear for a lot of employers, what are my responsibilities today? And so what they have found is in states where they have adopted legislation similar to this, which spells out here what your responsibilities are and what they are not, that has actually reduced litigation. And so the question has been raised, well, then why do you need a cause of action? Because what we have found is particularly low-wage workers can't find an attorney who can help them exercise those rights. But and I kind of wish Senator Peterson was here for this, what we have also found is when you have an attorney who can go with you to the employer and say, you know, let's talk about what accommodations need to be made, 90% of the time, they reach an accommodation that works for everybody. And so the intent of this bill is to protect pregnant workers' ability to continue to work, but to make reasonable accommodations to allow them to continue to work, and to help provide clarity to business owners to avoid litigation. Now, last time there were people here who wanted to testify. They were not able to, so I don't know if you'd like to hear from them. There's one in particular who I think on a lot of other issues we don't normally agree, but I think on this one we do.
Okay, we're going to limit the time to the speakers for this section to 3 minutes each, but I have questions from members of the committee, Senator Newman and then Senator Lewis.
Just thank you for the substitute. The questions are really two. One, where is the provision that exempts the exemption under federal law? Is that in the bill, or are you just?
It's not in the bill. I'm sorry, I think I lost my substitute. Can I get, yeah, thank you. Well, someone
Chair,
at
if I
my
could
shoulder who
just-
might want to answer that.
So this would not preempt the federal law on this. And the federal law actually only provides the opportunity for exemptions for those employers with 50 or fewer employees. This law actually has an undue hardship exemption for employers of any size. So this is more generous than the federal exemptions as well.
Madam Chair,
Senator Newman.
just while we go through this process, the questions might be, can we reference a federal law since it's been described as what we're trying to, the exemption takes care of the concerns? And number two is the punitive damages is unusual and kind of sticks out in this bill, and Virginia generally doesn't put those in here. Is there any thought about whether and maybe why we have to go all the way to punitive damages and not maybe attorney's fees or something like that?
I would be willing to limit punitive damages. I think part of the issue is really to ensure that what punitive damages usually does is gives an incentive for the employer to talk. But I think I would be prepared to put an amendment in to limit punitive damages to employers.
Senator
over
Newman,
particular
when this bill
size.
passed out last week, it passed out with an amendment. So now we're talking about
An amendment to the amendment?
an amendment to the amendment.
Yes.
Madam Chair, just following on that, would reasonable attorney's fees kind of get you where you need to go?
It's better than what we have now, yes. I
Okay.
think.
Well, I'll wait, but thank you.
Yeah.
That's-
I think I would be willing to limit punitive damages to employers over a size. And I think, the size limitations in South Carolina are 15 or more.
Before we move to the speakers, I'd like to call on those members of the committee who would like to ask questions of the patron, Senator Lewis, Donovan, and Edwards.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Senator McClellan, I know it's probably in here somewhere. Who determines the undue hardship on the employer?
Do you want to address that? Yeah.
So the standards that are considered in the undue hardship are spelled out in the law. which again is providing a bit of guidance. And this is in keeping with undue hardship provisions that we're seeing already at the federal level. So for example, there's significant guidance from the EEOC on how to determine an undue hardship under the existing anti-discrimination and accommodation laws.
So, Madam Chair, is the undue hardship then a defense that you raise when they take you to court?
Yes.
Okay, so you don't get it on the front end, you get it after somebody's filed suit against you, that you have to raise that as a defense, it's an undue hardship?
Yes.
Okay.
And it can also be raised in the negotiations. So
Yes.
there's the interactive process.
I don't know whether to start the clock or not, because the questions are being asked of Senator Donovan, but the speakers are responding, so, Senator McClellan?
Well, I would
We're gonna
say-
start the clock.
So the reason that the speaker is answering is because she is an attorney who practices and specializes in this
Okay.
area, so she's my subject matter expert witness.
Okay, all right. Can we hear from the speakers now? Senator McClellan?
Yes.
Well, I have Senator Donovan and Senator Edwards in queue to ask questions of the patron. Thank you. Okay, start the clock for the speakers.
Madam Chair and members, as you know, I'm Olivia Gans Turner, President of Virginia Society of Human Life. We do support the premise of this bill. We're very pleased that Senator McClellan has recognized what we recognize, and that is that unfortunately, even in the year 2020, we are often dealing with, unfortunately, employers and other circumstances, particularly where young women who may not have ever been in a situation of employment before actually do not know their rights and are sometimes made to feel that somehow or other being pregnant at this time is a burden that their employer is not willing to make accommodation for. And in our circumstances, from VSHL's concern, we've listened to mother helping centers around the state, and we've actually heard them discuss women who feel that they have been obliged by their employers to make a decision between a pregnancy and their job. In 2020, that should be unthinkable. I believe that you have some concerns, legitimate concerns about litigation, business practices, et cetera. All of that should be addressed, because in 2020, for pregnant women to ever feel that they could possibly be in jeopardy of losing their jobs because of a continuation of a pregnancy is something that disturbs us greatly. So we're very happy to support the effort being made by Senator McClellan and hope that some kind of appropriate accommodation could be made about this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. I'm Jessica Lee. I'm a staff attorney and researcher at the Center for Work-Life Law, where my work focuses on preventing discrimination against pregnant and breastfeeding workers. I train attorneys and healthcare providers on the law, and I run a hotline for employees and employers who are struggling to understand the law. And I have to agree with the senator's characterizations of some of this law. It's incredibly confusing. It is being revolutionized right now in the courts, and we simply can't imagine what small businesses go through sometimes interpreting the latest Supreme Court decision or the latest federal court decision. These laws are incredibly complex, whether you're an attorney or a small business. So, for example, some know small businesses are already required to provide the break time and space to their workers, but many don't understand which employees are covered, and that's the exempt employees, the managers, the salaried workers are not covered. It's incredibly confusing, and it's the workers that are falling through the cracks. In that confusion, the workers have to make a choice between their job and their health. I get those desperate calls. I read the statistics. It is persistent and widespread. These workers are hospitalized for severe infections. They experience preterm birth and miscarriages. And I recently, yesterday, actually spoke with a worker who asked me to share her story today, if I may.
You have 15 seconds, and if we go overtime, stop the clock, please. You go overtime, and I'll have to extend that same amount of time to the opposition.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I thought the clock didn't restart for me when I started. My apologies.
No, the 3 minutes was for the entire group, not for
Okay.
each person.
Well, I'll just tell you, this worker actually turned in 6 notes to her employer and was denied. She was in so much pain at the end of the day. Her husband had to carry her to bed. She had to quit her job, and she gave birth early. And the notes aren't enough. The federal law isn't enough. We need a state law. Thank you.
Thank you. Can the next 2 speakers come up and give your name and tell me what group or organization you represent?
Nicole Tortorella with the ACLU of Virginia. We strongly support this, and I'm happy to answer any questions as an attorney trying to make use of the extremely limited anti-discrimination provisions currently in Virginia law. Happy to answer any questions about why they're insufficient and this law is needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good morning. My name is Galina Vachena, and I'm with NARA Pro-Choice Virginia, and we are in alignment in an unusual coalition. We support the bill.
Well, thank you so much. And stop the clock. The next group will get 1 minute, 40 seconds. Get 3 minutes, 40 seconds.
Hi, Madam Chairwoman, Nicole Raleigh with NFIB representing Virginia Small Business Owners. Appreciate Senator McClellan including us in some discussions. And certainly from our members' perspective, we want to do everything that we possibly can to accommodate our female workers and during their pregnancies and such. I think the concerns that have been raised are some of the same ones we have in regards to litigation. For us, private cause of actions tend, especially if an employee is allowed to go straight to court and not have any administrative action first by the department to try to determine what has been done, if the employer has made some accommodation. I think to Senator Lewis's point about, would you now have to go all the way to court with a lawsuit to find out that if you had done X, Y, and Z, this would have been the proper reasonable accommodation. The bill does, in fairness, it does give a little bit more guidelines on what is undue burden and those kinds of things, which is helpful for businesses. But I think it's the punitive damages that certainly does concern us, that it can become businesses can become potentially, a target for lawsuits because businesses, unfortunately, particularly smaller businesses, typically settle before ever going to court. And so we just want to make sure that that's a little bit of a fair playing field there, that they can try to accommodate. And where in the process do they do that negotiation for making the reasonable accommodations? So those are our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. I have people in queue, but Senator McClellan, we have 12 bills left, and at 11:30, we're walking out the door.
So Madam Chair, in anticipation of a couple of the issues that were raised, I did have a substitute prepared that would provide an exemption for a good faith exception, which addresses Senator Lewis's point, and that would only apply the punitive damages provision to employers with 15 or more employees, which is what mirrors the South Carolina law. And it also mirrors language from the South Carolina law that makes absolutely clear you don't have to build a separate space for someone. So if recognizing where some of the concerns are coming from, I'd like to go ahead and have that substitute distributed.
Sure. Senator Newman?
Madam Chair, I would ask the gentlelady, I get the 15 or more, but
Thank you.
punitive damages are unusual, and you already have reasonable attorney's fees on line 143. How bad would it be to just strike on line 142 and punitive damages? You still have compensatory, and you also still have attorney's fees.
Senator Donovan?
Okay.
I would just like to associate myself with Senator Newman's comments. I get where we're going here. I love the idea of clearing up confusing expectations by piecemealed federal law. But I think if the benefit of this legislation is to provide guidelines for businesses, and there's not a lot of litigation that's ensued in other states, there's a lot coming at our businesses this year. And I think that, if you find this doesn't work and that you need to have, punitive in there, we in good faith, I'll revisit that with you. But I think that the benefit of what you're articulating is the clarity.
Madam Chair, if we strike punitive damages altogether, then I'd prefer my original substitute. If we leave punitive damages in there, then I'd be willing to go with the second substitute.
Senator Newman, did you still want to speak?
I think that's probably better, Madam Chair, is to stay with the old substitute, but strike punitive damages personally.
If that's a motion, we have a motion and a second.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Only person I have in queue is Lewis.
I know, I just need to ask it so I know what we're about to vote on. Which timestamp is which one? Because I was just handed another one, and now I don't know which one's which.
Okay.
801, right, is what I have.
Is it?
801 is what Senator McClellan would like us to advance?
Yes.
This is your preferred one,
Yes.
801?
Yes.
Yes,
Thank
8:01
you.
a.m. is the
And
Okay.
on line 142, you would strike
Clarify my motion.
punitive
Okay,
damages.
Senator Lewis, we want to hear from you, and then we want to clarify Senator Newman's motion.
Quick question, Madam Chair, of Senator McClellan. So under existing law, on lines 62 and 63 regarding discharge on the basis of race, color, religion, national origin, or sex, if you then go under that section to lines 78, 79, and 80, in those cases where the employee prevails, the court shall award attorney's fees from the amount to recover not to exceed 25% of the back pay awarded. The court shall not award other damages, compensatory or punitive, nor shall it order reinstatement of the employee. So that's kind of different from, we've got two things going on here, right?
Yeah, I hope you'll let me answer. That current provision in law, I'm the only attorney I'm aware of that's ever tried to use that law because those caps are so prohibitive that no private plaintiff's attorney is willing to take them. So the reason we carved out and removed pregnancy accommodations is to try to make sure that we have sufficient protections that private attorneys will be willing and able to take these cases. They can afford to take them without the attorney's fees cap, because that's currently why private attorneys are not taking those cases. And so that's functionally a meaningless protection in law.
Senator Newman, could you please clarify your motion?
Mr. Chairman, I think that the senator also agreed to Senator Lewis's clarification earlier. Is that correct? Did you have a clarification as well earlier? No. Well,
No.
Madam Chair, I think the motion would be that we go with the original substitute, but we take out the punitive damages.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and probably second that we go with the original substitute,
Line 142.
taking out punitive. And so you,
Line 142.
no,
Line 142.
line 142. So that is the clarification to the motion. So you've heard the motion and there is a second. All in favor, please designate on the voting board. Or say aye. Aye. Motion?
Move the report.
It has been moved and removed and second that we report the amendment as amended. All in favor?
Madam Chair.
Can we,
I'm sorry, just had a name pop up in queue. Senator Peterson.
I'm just, and I apologize, I was here late. So we're reporting the 6:39 PM version?
No, 801.
801.
801. And we struck the punitive damages portion?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Chair, sorry.
Senator Newman.
I'm sorry. I think I'm just going to abstain only because I'd like to continue to talk to you about the federal exemption, whether or not that can be captured in here. It may not be able to be, but we've used that as a reason to pass, so that's the reason for that.
I'm always happy to talk to you.
Madam Clerk,
Mr. Chair,
open the board.
Chair, I just want to clarify something. On line 142, where it says compensatory, we strike and punitive, but leave the word damages, so it reads compensatory damages, comma, back pay, and other equitable relief.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Everybody clear on the motion?
Move to report substitute.
It has been moved and properly second. So Madam Clerk, please open the board. Madam Clerk?
Yeas 9, nays 4, abstentions 2.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeas 9, nays 4, abstentions 2. The bill is, the amended bill as amended is recommended for reporting.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We still have 12 bills, and while we're in this section, before we go back to, I think it's 4 bills that we did not call up. Senator Locke, you have Senate Bill 917 that was referred from Commerce and Labor.
Yes, ma'am, and I would like to move that that bill be continued to 2021, and that in the interim, we would have a work group to look at these issues.
Okay, it's been moved and probably second that the bill be continued to 2021 session, and that in the interim, there's a work group to deal with these issues. All in favor, please designate by voting on the electronic board. Thank you, Senator Lott. Senator Donovan, you have 2 in this section.
I'll start with Senate Bill 568, which has a substitute.
Please draw your attention to Senate Bill 568, Senator Donovan.
Madam Chairman, this bill was intended to address some of the issues we have with PBMs in the Medicaid marketplace.
Do you have an amendment?
Yes, no, I have a substitute that's coming to
substitute?
you. I move the substitute.
It's been moved and properly seconded that the substitute be agreed to. All in favor, voice vote.
Aye.
Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My initial bill was designed really to try and push DMAS to do the most transparent form of PBM oversight for Medicaid. It was just too big a bite at the apple. I've substituted in the bill now that is before you that basically is working alongside DMAS with something they intend to do, and that is to require all of the MCOs that participate with DMAS to ensure that their pharmacy benefits provide, and I am just losing my language for a second, Madam Chairman, give me just a minute. Spread pricing, it prevents spread pricing. Thank you so much, Madam Chairman, for your
okay.
patience. So spread pricing is when there's a difference between what a PBM pays for a prescription and what they charge the pharmacy for that prescription. Most of the MCOs already have agreements with their PBMs that there is no spread pricing for DMAS. DMAS would like to make sure that all PBMs under the umbrella of their MCOs actually have no spread pricing, and that, Madam Chairman, is the bill.
Any questions of the patron?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that Senate Bill 568 be reported. All in the that the amendment in the nature of the substitute be reported.
Thank you.
All in favor, please vote electronically. I don't have anything to ask me to take it to finance. Okay. And refer to finance.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
All in favor? Nays have same right? Thank you. Senator Donovan, you have a second bill, and that is?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The second bill is Senate Bill 185, and this is a bill.
Suspend for one moment, please. Madam Clerk, could you announce the?
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Yes.
Yeas 15, nays 0. The bill is reported and will be referred to finance. Senator Donovan,
Thank you,
second
Madam
bill.
Chairman. The second bill is Senate Bill 185, and for that, you likewise have a substitute. And this bill was brought to me by.
Let's move the substitute.
Move the substitute. Second.
It's been moved and properly second that the substitute be agreed to. All voice vote, please. Aye. Senator Donovan.
Madam Chairman, this will allow employees of nursing homes and assisted living to store and dispense the compounded CBD and THC that we have approved in Virginia to be compounded by our 5 regional pharmacies in the best interest of the residents in those homes. And the idea is that at this point in time, the employees and the homes feel like they were not quite included in the language of the bill before that provided protections to make sure this was securely managed, and they have asked for the protections in this bill. We've had long conversations with Department of Health Professions and DSS to make sure that we have language that is appropriate for licensing in Virginia. There are still some catches, Madam Chairman, as these agencies are licensed federally, but so are many other states that have medical marijuana programs, and there have not been a problem with that. So with that and those amendments and substitute in mind, Madam Chairman, I hope it will be the pleasure of the committee to approve and report this bill.
Any questions of the patron?
Move report. Second.
It's been moved and properly second that Senate Bill 185, dealing with the possession and distribution of cannabidiol or THCs.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and committee.
Thank you.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have 3 more bills in this section, and Senator Barker, you have a bill, and that's Senate Bill 902. And then following yours, Senator Deeds has 2 bills in this section. Senator. We have 3 bills left. I see, in this section you have 2, but yes, you do have 3.
I've been sitting here 2.5 hours, so I hope I don't have to sit here another hour.
Oh, no. Senator Barker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have a substitute. So I move adoption of the substitute for Senate Bill 902.
It's been moved and properly second that the substitute be agreed to. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Noes have same right. Senator Barker.
All right, Senate Bill 902, which deals with pre-admission screenings of nursing home patients who are coming into nursing home from outside the facility. This came about as a result of discussions that I'd had with the Virginia Healthcare Association, which is the advocacy group and the group for nursing homes and assisted living facilities. The main purpose of the bill is to realign the practices and the legal provisions with what is actually happening within facilities themselves. There have been issues of patients coming in and being accepted by nursing homes before the pre-admission screening has been completed, and this will help to deal with that. This substitutes the product of a work group involving work with DMAS and a number of state agencies as well as stakeholders. I'm not aware of any opposition to the bill, and I'm going to ask Scott Johnson to walk you through this substitute and explain the difference versus the introduced bill.
Mr. Johnson?
Good morning, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Scott Johnson, representing the Virginia Healthcare Association. A lot of people to start off with thanking, and Senator Barker mentioned DMAS, but also I want to include DSS and DARS and the area agencies on aging as well. What you've got in the substitute before you, we create on line 12 a new definition of acute care hospital because we use that throughout the code. We preserve on line 18 patient choice, which is a very valuable thing as we go through assessments. And we keep the community screenings that take place. So if an individual is available for services or requested and it's in the community, that stays the same. If you turn to page 2, in the middle of the page around line 37, sometimes patients are in an inpatient setting in a hospital, and if they need to have a screening, then that is done by the hospital folks, and that will continue. The change in this bill is paragraph F on page 2, line 43, and that basically says if the patient is receiving skilled services, they don't require at this time or qualify for Medicare, that the screening would be done by the skilled nursing facility as opposed to being done by the hospital association or hospital. We worked with the hospital association on this, and I want to thank them for that. And basically everything else in the bill is either relocation or updating outdated language. So with that, I'm glad to answer any questions and would ask for your support. I don't know if anyone is against it.
I'd like to make a motion to report. Second.
It's been moved. And second, that Senate Bill 902 be reported with the substitute that we've already agreed to. All in favor, please let it be known electronically.
Madam Chairman, may I address the question about finance? There is a companion bill in the other body, and DMAS, after the substitute was posted over there, issued a new FIZ, and it was $0. They can't issue a new FIZ on this one until today's substitute comes online, but the two bills are identical.
Now the question is whether or not this bill is going to refer to finance. I want to confer with the former chair.
I think if it does get a fist between now and the floor, we can send it over, but I don't think it needs one now if it came out to you.
Yes, sir. I've got the House one if you need it.
Well, the bill has been reported with the substitute, but just to err on the side of caution, let's send it up to finance anyway.
That's fine.
Thank you. Senator Newman?
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Yeas 15, nays 0. The bill will be reported with the substitute and referred to finance. And I would like to apologize, Senator Deeds. I know what it feels like sitting out there. I sat for hours waiting for my casino bill to be heard. But unfortunately, we have so many bills this year that it's making everybody crazy. And we have put these in categories, which is the reason why we've gone through the way we have. But what I'm going to do now is take your two bills that are in this section, and then I will go back to the public ed section and have you also present Senate Bill 619. So if you would do those three.
Yeah, okay, yes, ma'am. With 1039, I think is the first one, or 1049.
1049, that is correct, sir.
And what that problem, there's a substitute for that bill, and the substitute encompasses the ideas and suggestions from the hospital.
Is there a substitute that needs to be distributed?
Understand that carries a lot
It's
of
been
weight
moved
up
and
here.
properly seconded that the substitute be agreed to. Please let it be known by voice vote of aye or nay. All right, Senator.
The problem is when you have an adult child in a psychiatric crisis, and sometimes the parent is the only caregiver are the only member of the family, and they're limited in the amount of input they can have. Certainly, they're limited under HIPAA law, and providers are somewhat,
Thank you.
somewhat skittish about even allowing them to have any input at all. But when a child wants when an adult child wants their parent to be involved, and gives that parent permission, they ought to be able to. The bill I introduced was a little more broad. This bill, as I said, contains suggestions that came from the Hospital Association. It just clarifies the role that a parent can play. It clarifies the connection between the provider and the family. And I don't think I don't think it breaks any new ground in this current form. So I'd ask you to report it.
Senator Newman and then Senator Cosgrove.
Is there any opposition to this bill? It seems straightforward.
As it's drafted now, or as the substitute's drafted, I don't think there's any opposition.
I move to
Chair.
report.
It's been moved and properly second that the Senator Cosgrove, that's correct. And then Senator Donovan, before we move the motion.
Madam Chairman, I just asked the patron, is there any HIPAA issues with this?
I don't think so. And frankly, there was concern about that, but the Hospital Association has scrubbed this bill, I think. There are people that are lined up here.
Senator Donovan.
Could you show me where this bill says the patient has to give consent? Because without that patient's consent, this is a HIPAA violation. And so I need to see, because I've looked at the bill prior to the substitute.
Did you look at the substitute?
No, sir, I'm trying to look at the substitute now, but
Could you direct us to that language, Senator Deeds?
Okay,
Madam, we're going to use the staff attorney.
So on line 50 of the substitute says, to the extent possible, any other individual identified and requested by the person, and the person refers to the patient.
That was on line 50.
And counsel, is that sufficient to be compliant? I mean, for HIPAA, you need to have a signed release that I can speak with any family member of a patient. It is federal law.
I think that's a broad reading of the federal law. And I know that doctors are very concerned about being sued, but I'm not sure that's what the federal law
Have you ever
requires.
been to an office or a hospital that did not require your signature for a HIPAA release?
I never have, no.
No.
But I still think it's a broad reading.
I agree.
We do have a motion and I have no other members of the committee in queue. Senator
A bunch of people lined up here that want to
Deeds,
speak.
we're going to give each side 3 minutes because we're running up against the clock with other bills remaining in the committee. Madam Clerk, would you set the clock? We'll have 3 minutes each side. Those in favor of the bill, please come forward.
Madam Chair, I'm Steve Pearson, and I'm the parent of an adult child that's been involuntarily admitted twice now. This past occasion didn't work out so well from my perspective because it was very difficult to collaborate with hospital or the hospital staff, with the community services boards, with anybody having anything to do with his care, despite the fact that he had executed HIPAA waivers and affirmatively desired the participation of his family. Mother and I just were sort of at a loss. This bill is a result of a collaboration with Senator Deeds concerning that circumstance, and is an effort merely to get to a better place on it. It's quite clear to me, and I believe to everybody involved with this, that there is no way that you can do this over the patient's objection. If there is no HIPAA waiver, it's not going to happen.
Thank you. Any others to speak in favor of the bill? Madam Clerk, please reset the clock. We hear now from the opposition.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jennifer Faison. I'm here representing the Virginia Association of Community Services Boards. We did work with the patron of this bill to hopefully address the concerns about a patient's ability, an individual's ability to object to individuals that they do not want included in this process. And so believe that the language does put it in a posture where it is only those persons that the individual would identify that they would want to be participating in the discharge plan, participating in the treatment planning, receiving a copy of the discharge plan, which would include where that person's getting discharged to and what the day is. We were concerned initially for a number of reasons, HIPAA violations. One of them, of course, also situations of domestic abuse where you may have an individual who would not be appropriate to learn of that person's discharge plan and where they're being discharged. The last thing I would say, though, however, is that on page 6 of the substitute, when you look at G, it says family members of the person whose involuntary admission sought, and goes on. And I don't believe that this would allow any family member to attend a commitment hearing, even over that person's objection. And that section of the bill was not fixed with the amendment with the substitute.
Thank you. You have 1 minute, 33 seconds left. And so,
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee. My name is Deidre Johnson. I'm with Vocal, Virginia statewide peer-run mental health recovery and education nonprofit. I believe that the intention of this bill is to help a very complicated process. However, there will be unintended consequences. Many individuals who have been subjected to trauma have severed ties with their family for various reasons, such as domestic violence, as Jennifer mentioned. They may not have realized that they need to revoke their consent, so I am very pleased to see that those changes were made. However, by involving in subsection G, allowing the family to attend any hearing for involuntary commitment, that could lead to further traumatization of the peer and effectively exacerbate their mental health crisis. And for those reasons, we oppose the bill.
Quick.
you have 25 seconds left. Any others? Could you please state your name and give me the name of your organization, please? And
Yes, my name is Jennifer Spangler. I am here on behalf of myself, who will be directly impacted by this legislation. My experience, I have a named agent, I have an advanced medical directive, a power of attorney for my husband. People don't listen to my husband. We incur problems all the time. My rights, my HIPAA rights, have been walked all over because of
Thank you, ma'am. I'm
my
sorry, we're out of
father.
time. Thank you. Anybody else who wants to speak against the bill?
Madam Chair, I'd like to know, which side is she on? I can't figure it out.
No, she was speaking in opposition to the bill. She had she was speaking personally as an individual about her particular. Senator Cosgrove?
I'm going to ask a favor. The speaker before took up an inordinate amount of time.
Yes.
Can we just hear the last couple of sentences of that witness?
Yes,
Please.
It's been requested that you come back. Senator Peake, was that your same statement?
Can we just, 1 minute maybe?
1 minute.
Thank you, I really appreciate it. So, in my experience, the hospital staff and providers don't know who to talk to, my father or my husband. I'm 42 years old. I've been diagnosed an adult, treated as an adult. I've been married for 18 years. It's ridiculous for my parents to get involved. An adult, no matter what age they are, deserves to have their agent speak for them or speak for themselves. So while I appreciate that family is important, it is most important that I be able to express my needs when I'm most vulnerable. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Cosgrove?
No, that was it. Thank you for your courtesy.
Oh, you're very welcome. Senator Deeds, if you would like to wrap it up.
It's a terribly complicated issue, but there's nothing about this bill that would prevent a person who is in care from expressing their own needs. Family members, particularly when they're adult children, they want to be involved. And if the adult child wants them to be involved, that's all this bill does. It says they can attend hearings, it says they can get information.
Madam Chairman.
Senator Donovan?
I know we're moving fast, but we have to be careful when we're moving fast. And we've had 2 objections to subsection G, 135 to 37. I propose an amendment to strike those lines. And if you feel that's necessary, you can come back when we have more time to talk about it. But I just don't see how we can go forward without further vetting this program or waiting a year to pass the legislation unless we strike those lines.
You've heard Senator Donovan's motion to strike that language. And did I hear a second? It's been moved and properly second that the language be stricken.
Madam
Senator
Chair-
Deeds?
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Senator Edwards, you're now in queue.
This is, in line 135, deals with an involuntary admission. It only applies to that, right? Family members of a person whose involuntary admission is sought should be allowed to attend the hearing for involuntary commitment. It's limited to that, right?
That's the way I read it. Yes,
Yeah.
that's the way I read it, but
Okay.
All in favor of the motion from Senator Donovan to strike the language on those lines designated, please respond by voting on the electronic monitor. Vote aye. Aye. Nays have the same, right?
No, no.
I think we need to do a recorded vote rather than trying to figure out, having everybody. Senator Peake, before we vote.
Yeah, what is the patron's position on
You know,
that request?
I would rather have a bill going forward than not. I don't know that I share Senator Donovan's concern about that language because we were earlier talking about due process rights. You know, the person undergoing an involuntary commitment hearing really has no due process rights. I think they deserve to have the right to have a family member there.
Senator Donovan, and
That would be permissive. They
Right.
can request a family member to be there, but this is basically saying the family members are allowed to be there, pretty much with or without their permission. And I think that's the issue that the advocates have, is that these lines do not clearly state, they remove the patient's ability to, it's not a permissive, it's mandated.
Well, as I said, I would prefer that a bill go forward, an imperfect bill go forward than
Madam Chair?
something like this to hold it up.
Senator Peterson and then Senator Edwards.
And I'm a little bit late to the party, but would there be any objection to adding an amendment to line 37, just saying, comma, at the request of the subject,
Or unless the subject objects.
unless the subject objects?
I move that amendment.
I think they have to have permission instead of object. So I think there's another amendment from council perhaps.
Okay.
Maybe this will help. If we strike family members of the at the beginning of the line and insert any other person requested and identified by the, and then it would read, person whose involuntary admission is sought shall be allowed. So it would require
Okay.
the permission.
So I move that.
Okay, you've heard the,
And I withdraw my motion.
thank you both for withdrawing. The substitute motion is to, language as stated by council, to the amendment in the nature of a substitute. All in favor of that, do we need a voice vote or can we do this electronically?
Voice.
Voice vote?
Voice.
All in favor signify aye or nay.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Now I'll need a motion.
Second.
The motion is to report the amendment in the nature of a substitute as amended. All in favor of that motion, please designate electronically.
I'm with you. Let's make sure we're not missing anything.
Madam Clerk?
Yeas 12, abstentions 3.
Nays 12, yeas 12, nays 0. Abstentions, I think it was 3?
Yes, ma'am.
3. Senator
Okay.
Dees, your
Senate
bill
Bill
passes.
1050 is there's no controversy that surrounds it. I'm going to make it easy and ask you to carry the bill over for the year.
Amen. Amen. Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that the bill be carried over. All in favor, please designate on the electronic voting board. Thank you, Senator Dees. That saved us a little bit of time. And you,
It saved you a few days, I think.
yes, sir. All right.
Yeas 14, nays 0.
Okay, Senate Bill 1619 came up in Senator Hashmi's subcommittee last week. There's a substitute for that was suggested by Senator Donovan. It's essentially what was worked out in the House. What I wanted to do, and I'd ask you to adopt the substitute.
So moved.
It's been moved and properly seconded that the substitute be adopted. All in favor, please, voice vote. Aye. Nays have same right. Senator
Okay,
Chase.
the bill as originally introduced would have required that all new hires, as school teachers, undergo 8-hour mental health first aid class. The bill is amended that basically comes from the other body, requires the State Board of Education to develop a mental health awareness program for each school board to identify which of its employees need to undergo that a mental health awareness program, and to do that every 10 years, that they go through it every 10 years.
Kathy?
Any questions of the patron?
No, looking for a thumbs up from teachers, but.
That's about a quarter loaf of bread, but I'll take a quarter loaf rather than nothing at all.
Okay, Senator Dees, you understand the finance is going to request this bill?
That's fine.
Go up to the 14th floor. Okay.
Can we
Senator
hear-
Cosgrove.
Can we hear from superintendents? I mean,
Get a
educational-
thumb?
I just
Can we
wanna
get
see
a
what's-
thumb?
Are you up, down? What is it?
Oh, no.
It's the House bill.
Madam Chair, Tom Smith, with the Superintendent's Association. We're fine with this bill and appreciate the senator working with us on it.
It's been moved and properly seconded that the substitute be reported. All in favor of that motion, you can designate on the electronic voting board.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Dees, and I apologize again for you having to wait because we had these in different sections.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Senator Reeves, I'm sorry that you had to wait, but I'm sorry, the way we've got these blocked off, you're in another section.
Madam Chair, you're okay. It's all good. I have one bill left.
And following Senator Reeves will be Senator Marsden, so we can move this committee to its conclusion.
Madam Chair, we had the bill go by so we could do a little wordsmithing, and if council will catch this on line 41, it's Senate Bill 462. Rather than say on line 41, 8, it says claimed. If we just say claims.
Madam Chair. I really think that solves the problem because it basically says that just because you were 10 years here at some point doesn't automatically qualify you. It says that if you had 10 years and you're still claiming is basically.
Correct.
So I would move the amendment, Madam Chair.
I second that.
The amendment has been moved and properly second. All in favor of voice vote, say aye. Nay, same right. Senator Reeves?
Madam Chair, I explained the bill last time we heard it.
Yes, you do. It's been moved and properly second that with that amendment, that the bill be recommended for reporting and referred to finance. All in favor, please vote electronically. Nays have same right. Thank you, Senator Reeves.
Thank you, ma'am.
Senator Marsden, I'm so sorry to keep you waiting. That's all right. But what we could do next year is maybe minimize the number of bills that each of us put in, right?
Well, there you go. Someone has to be last, Madam
Yes, sir.
Chairman. And that's
And
that's
a little bit of
okay.
commentary from the chairman. Be grateful that you didn't have Senator Servo with all of his bills in one block.
There you go. Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I have Senate Bill 99, and we have a substitute to that and a line amendment to the substitute.
Who does? Okay,
99.
Okay, did we just have a motion on Senator Marsden's bill? The substitute's been moved. All in favor of the substitute? We did get a second. All in favor of the substitute, please let it be known by aye or nay. Aye. Senator Marsden?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill creates a protection for applicants to public institutions of higher learning that must be that they must be considered for admission prior to any knowledge of their criminal history. Basically, this is a ban-the-box kind of bill for higher education. It requires an admissions based on all other relevant criteria normally associated with acceptance prior to that criminal background check. After a criminal background check is conducted, it will be the option of the public institution to move forward with the admission or rescind it based on their judgment as to the suitability of the candidate for admission. The concern is that some minor criminal activity in an applicant's past could preclude them from even being reviewed, no matter how strong their other credentials. If it is determined that a criminal infraction would not interfere with successful adjustment and performance in the institution, And it would also determine that the individual would pose no unacceptable risk to the safety and good order of the college, then it can be approved. Now, what this substitute does is solve the problems that the Longwood, Old Dominion, and VMI had. And what it does is that VMI requested that ROTC be granted an exception, and I certainly understand that, people, going into the military, that they would need that up
Sure.
front.
Sure.
Then there's in the amendment, we deal with the problems that UVA, Longwood, and Old Dominion had, although Longwood and Old Dominion also some of their issues were taken care of in the sub. And what that does is in the amendment provides for that withdrawing an offer of admission to any individual from the institution subsequently determined through an individualized assessment to have criminal history that places the institution's community at an unreasonable risk, or this is inconsistent with academic program standards, and that's the important part there. These are in sensitive areas where a background check would be considered to be appropriate right up front in medical areas or in certain graduate school programs. But this seems to have solved all the problems of 4 of these major institutions and also brings Chev into agreement that this will work. And as far as I know, we have peace in the valley with our institutions.
Well, that is
and Chev.
wonderful.
And Madam Chairman, it moves us forward with some of our criminal justice
We have 3
reform.
members of the committee in queue, and if you all could please limit your commentary to about 1 minute. We have 3 bills remaining, and all of those are Senator Suderline, and we're going to be relying on you to bring us in on time. And so with that, Senator Peterson,
Madam Chair.
Cosgrove, and Chafin, in that order.
Very succinctly. So what you're telling me is if an applicant to a competitive school, such as UVA Tech, any of our schools, has been convicted of, for example, homicide, that cannot be used to determine whether or not they get into the school?
No, violent felonies are covered in the substitute as being something that someone would have to report.
But a nonviolent felony would not be covered?
Correct.
Thank you, Senator Peterson. In queue, Senator Cosgrove, Chafin, Donovan.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just very briefly, so you can ask about felony convictions. You get a conditional offer, and then you check and see there's a felony, and then they can withdraw the offer.
That is correct.
So why are we bothering with this? Why don't they just do it all up front, so there's not the whole conditional offer and then the rescindance of that offer? It just seems to be adding a whole circular motion here that's not needed.
What the problem is, Senator Cosgrove, Madam Chair, is that, what we're concerned about is the same thing that happens with jobs. You kind of go into a pile where you never get an adequate review of your application because you have owned up to a criminal charge. And some of these very competitive institutions, you just don't get considered. And, there has been a history in this Commonwealth of people being charged in situations where bias is in play, and this sort of levels the playing field for people to get that second chance, to get a consideration. That's really in keeping with all the criminal justice reform we're trying to do this year, and putting this in. It's already being done, from my understanding, at George Mason University, and the other colleges and universities don't have trouble with it at this point in time, and neither does Chev. And it just seems like a fair way to proceed to make sure that everybody gets a shot.
Senator Marston, there may have been peace in the valley, but there's displeasure on this committee because I have now 3 names in queue. Senator Chafin, Donovan, Edwards, and then we're going to move on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Marston, my question is, why would we want to, there are certain curriculums out there, certain schools that a person might want to attend that their background would be an absolute bar for licensure, would be an absolute bar for sitting before the board if they were able to pass through the curriculum and obtain a degree, would be an absolute bar for them to take the bar as an attorney if they had certain criminal activity in their background. Why would we want to put our universities to the expense and the trouble of doing all this, knowing that that person can't be successful.
Senator Chafin, and I appreciate the questions coming from the committee, but this bill came out of the committee with no recommendation. So if we can abbreviate our comments, I think we can get to a motion.
Madam Chair, if I could, Senator Chafin, that's what the amendment takes care of. That was UVA's concern, the very thing that you had, and it's broad language, but it does give them the authority to do just that and to make sure that they wouldn't string somebody along for something that they could not qualify for and that they could eliminate them at that time.
Thank you for that question, Senator Chafin. We also have now Senator Donovan and Edwards in queue. And remember that Senator Suderline still has 3 bills. Senator Donovan.
With respect for your comments, I'm going to move that we PBI the bill. If that fails, I'll have further comments.
It has been moved and probably second that the bill be PBI. All in favor?
I still have some questions.
No, we've already had a motion to PBI. The question is, will the bill be PBI? All in favor, vote yea or nay. Senator Morrison, the bill is passed by indefinitely.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator Suderline. Senator Suderline, let's draw our attention to Senate Bill. Which one do you want first? We just need all 3 of them within the next
1078.
1078. We have draw your attention to
1078
Senate
is a
Bill.
good bill that we need more time on. So I would move that the bill be carried to the 2021 session.
So moved.
That's a great idea.
That the bill be carried over to the 2021 session. All in favor of that motion, please vote aye. Thank you, Senator Suderline.
And I've got another very good bill that I think the time is for this year, though. That's Senate Bill 128, and there's going to be some advocates, so I'll ask them to come up quickly, and they're going to speak very briefly to this. But what this bill does is something that we passed as a Senate last year. The House did not like it, but still a good bill, and I hope that the House feels better now that they've been refreshed, as Senator House says. So we have before you, it allows the Department of Education and local school boards to develop a pilot program in 2 to 8 school divisions to provide services under CSA to children in the schools. This is something that I believe will lower costs to the school divisions, increase parental choice. If these children have IEPs, their parents would be deciding where they go. And also, it would, I believe, improve services. That's why the parents also would be choosing that, because they believe it too. So I think we'll have the advocates with the ARC come up, and they'll speak very briefly, and then I've got someone from Roanoke County on the fiscal side of it.
3 minutes each side. Madam Clerk, set the clock.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of this committee. My name is Pauline Spencer, and I live in Chesterfield County. I'm here today to share the experiences of my cousin, Alex Thurman, who's 14 years old. He told me to share with you that he wishes he could be here, but he has 2 very important tests today. I will hold his picture up for you to see here. Alex is a 7th grade student at Liberty Middle School in Hanover County. Many would consider him a student with significant support needs because he does not use words to communicate and needs a communication device to talk. But he is one of the lucky few who has a school team who has provided the resources to support his communication and sensory needs in the general education classroom at his neighborhood school. With these supports, Alex is able to be part of the middle school band, eat in the lunchroom, sitting with his neighborhood peers without disabilities, go on science field trip, excel in math class, learn Spanish, and participate in a school spelling bee. And just be an overall contributing member of his community like I was given when I went through middle school. Please support SB 128 so public schools can explore options to provide students with significant support needs to be able to attend their neighborhood schools in general education classrooms and not be forced to attend private schools.
Thank you for that presentation.
Thank you.
Tanya Milling, the Arc of Virginia. We strongly support this bill.
Thank you so much.
And good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Peter Luback. I'm the Roanoke County Attorney, and I'm here on behalf of the Roanoke County Board of Supervisors, and we also ask you to support this bill for several reasons. First, and most importantly, we do believe that this is in the best interest of the child and of the families. As Senator Suderline said, we believe that this would enable the parents of the children to have more choice as to where their children receive their education. It would also allow the children to remain or transition back to their peer group setting. We believe that this would be the most important benefits of the bill. Additionally, we do believe that there would be cost savings in Roanoke County. There are approximately 100 students that would be affected by this pilot program. It would result in a cost savings, we believe, in approximately $2 million to Roanoke County per year. And finally, we understand that this matter has been referred to the JLR Commission. We believe that this pilot program would go hand in hand with their study and would benefit that as well and provide more information to the Senate. So again, for these reasons, we do ask for your support. Thank you.
Well, thank you so very much.
Madam Chair, Tom Smith, the Superintendent's Association, we're in strong support. You had this bill and a number of bills before you before. It indicates the need for something like this, and we feel like a pilot would be a first step, good step. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Madam Clerk, could you set the clock for the opposition?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I won't need 3 minutes. Bill Elwood, representing the Virginia Association of Independent Specialized Education Facilities. These are the private schools that provide special education services under the CSA. As mentioned, there are 2 studies going on with JLARC, one for special education, one for CSA. We appreciate what they're trying to do. The House hasn't seen the clear way to do this either. That version has already been referred to their Appropriations Committee and with a letter to JLARC. And we would ask that you take the same action that you've been consistent with. Senator Peake had a bill earlier, and Senator Stewart had a similar bill that have already been referred to Finance in a letter to JLARC.
Thank you, Bill.
Just quickly to close, JLARC was supposed to have the report previously. They still haven't given it to us. So these children are still not getting the services that their parents would prefer them to be able to have, and it's still at a higher cost to the taxpayers. And I would just point out that House action was in one of those very small subcommittees, so who knows what could happen. It was on a 1-vote margin. So I think the Senate should listen to Jefferson and not care what the other chamber did yet.
Move to report, second.
It has been moved.
Refer to finance.
It has been moved and properly seconded that the bill be reported and referred to finance. All in favor of that motion, please vote electronically.
Almost.
Yeas 15, nays 0.
Yeas 15, nays 0, and the bill will be reported and referred to finance. Senator Suderline,
Thank you.
you're bringing us in on time. Thank you.
Hope that goodwill continues.
Do you have a substitute?
No, I don't have a substitute. I don't know
Okay,
if another
all right.
member put one forward. Senate
Here's
Bill
not.
1079, I'll just read it to you because that's the clearest way to understand it. It's a Section 1 bill that provides the Board of Medicine shall amend regulations to require that patients be notified that they have a right to opt out of the presence of a chaperone during medical examinations, provided the chaperone is medically unnecessary. The regulation shall also include a provision permitting healthcare practitioners to refuse to perform medical services for a patient who refuses the presence of a chaperone. And so this is something that came out with no recommendation in subcommittee. The example that was used there, and I think it works well, is if you ever have medical students that want to see you or that their teachers think they would be beneficial, you're asked, do you want them to be there or not? We all agree that that's the way it should be. Unfortunately, there's also folks that are in there that don't have a medical component. They're there to watch it, and it's supposed to be to provide safety for everyone. But a lot of folks would rather not be in an intimate situation with someone that's not medically necessary, not part of the medical team there. And that's something the constituent made me aware of, and I did not realize how many articles there were about the subject, but I've been flooded with them. And so I hope it will be the pleasure of the committee to report favorably on the bill.
Madam Chairman.
Senator Donovan?
Thank you. Madam Chairman, I think I need to understand what Senator Suderline's intent is on this, but chaperone in the medical arena is specifically allocated to an individual that is there to verify that no untoward behavior happens and is there both to protect the patient and the physician. And I would kindly suggest that chaperone not be the language used in this bill, but a medically unnecessary personnel, but from a comprehensive viewpoint of a provider, a chaperone is a medically necessary based on the constructs of the way we practice, including medical legal requirements, that we have a chaperone who may not be a clinical person, but is there and should respect the person's privacy, but that is a two-way decision between both the physician and the patient.
Yes, and I'd welcome an amendment if you have language.
Instead of chaperone, presence of person for medical examinations, providing that person is medically unnecessary. Nope, we have some.
What lines are those, Senator Donovan?
I'm gonna defer to MSV and see if they have some insight on that.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, Scott Johnson, General Counsel for the Medical Society of Virginia. Senator Suderline was kind enough to alert us as this was coming, and as we did in subcommittee, we opposed the bill. If you look at what's in this bill, you're basically asking the Board of Medicine that they shall develop regulations regarding chaperones, and I can tell you as a husband and a father of 2 daughters, this is a very important thing. There are plenty of great healthcare providers out there, but this is to protect against bad actors on both sides. Patients who make false claims against doctors, bad doctors who take inappropriate actions with patients. And I understand that communication may not have happened as it probably should have, but I would encourage you not to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I've talked with the Board of Medicine and looked at ideas of how we can address this. And we have quarterly newsletters that go to all providers to tell them how you communicate with patients and you in this interest. So maybe slow the train down, carry this bill over for the summer. Let us work with Senator Suderline and the Board of Medicine, which we're committed to do, to address his issue and not cause harm.
Thank you so much. Senator Newman?
David, would you mind if we carried it over and let's see if we can work this out?
Yeah, I'm happy to work with Senator Donovan and
So moved.
MSV.
It's been moved and properly seconded that the bill be carried over. I'll be continued to 2021. All in favor of that motion, please designate on the electronic voting board. Thank you, Senator Suderline.
Thank you.
I'd like to confer with my chair and also with the clerk. Does that complete the calendar?
Madam Chair, I just want to say, fantastic job.
I want to thank all of you for being so cooperative, because I can't do it unless you all kind of just help me out a little bit here. So I just thank you all for being so helpful. I want to thank all of you, the members of our committee, keeping us straight. I want to thank the pages. Thank you all so much, and thank all of you all for coming and being so understanding. See you at the crossover. Committee will rise.